Are we all on? This Tuesday, October 20th, 2020. So it's 2020. Anyway, thank you all for being here. Mr. Clerk, would you like to call the roll?
This meeting is being recorded.
Commissioner Moritas?
Here.
Vice Mayor Glassman?
Here.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Here.
Commissioner Sorensen?
Here.
Here, thank you. So in an effort to encourage people to stay at home, limit public gatherings and slow the spread of the coronavirus, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis waived state requirements for local governments to have in-person quorums for public meetings as part of Executive Order 20-69. The City of Fort Lauderdale will be hosting virtual commission meetings using the audio-video conferencing software until further notice. The public will be able to listen to and view the virtual meeting at www.fortlauderdale.gov/FLTV or at www.youtube.com/City of Fort Lauderdale, as well as on Comcast Channel 78 and AT&T UVerse Channel 99. So to speak on an agenda item, please click on the link below, and that link is B as in boy, bit.ly/virtual CC meetings. That's bit.ly/virtual CC meetings. Okay, so thank you all for being here this afternoon. I'm sorry for the delay. I think we should probably consider on a future conference meeting making an agenda item to discuss what we just passed today and discuss next steps. I think we should have a sense of the commission as to how we should proceed forward as we work in concert with the county. Having said that, why don't we start with commission reports? Commissioner Moritas, do you have anything you'd like to talk about today?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Also listening to your opening, are we extending our virtual meetings or are we going back next meeting? You said until further. I thought we were going back.
Well, I think that hey, Chris, Mr. Lagerbloom, are you on?
I am. Good afternoon. Yes,
Okay.
I'm here. So we do not have an additional order at this point that would suggest that we continue the virtual. And what the virtualness of the meeting was to create a quorum. And so if the governor extends that, it suspends the quorum requirement, then we can continue to do it. But at this point, there has not been the quorum requirement by virtual space waived after November 1st.
So what he's basically saying is that at least 3 of us have to be in person if the governor does not reinstate his suspension requirement. So suspension of having to meet in person has expired, and we are going to be asked, in order to make our meetings official and to have an officially recognized quorum, we have to have at least 3 people to sit in camera. And I know Jeff has ordered partitions that will be placed between each of us, but my feeling is that as long as 3 of us appear, that provides the quorum, and 2 of us can still participate remotely.
You're right. My question is, can the other 2 vote virtually? Our ordinance right now does not allow that, even though the county ordinance does allow them to vote if they are virtual. So
that's a good question, Heather. Alan, do you want to respond to that?
Yes. Currently, the commissioner is correct that actually that's dictated by Resolution 12-84. And the way that it's currently written, you would not be able to vote on quasi-judicial matters or public hearings wherein they're required by law. That being said, obviously it needs to be a workable option. So if the suspension is not extended, which we don't believe it would be, based on everything that's come out of the governor's office, there's a couple things we can do. We could, although the That resolution is modeled against decades worth of attorney general opinions. So that's been sort of the guiding principle for governmental bodies for decades. What we can do is we can modify the resolution, or since we're still under a state of emergency by the governor, we could potentially suspend some of those requirements. That may be the easier option, and allow for participation, because obviously we've been participating in quasi-judicial and public hearings virtually. So it can be done, it has been done. So to the extent that we need to comport with this resolution, probably the easiest thing would be possibly just suspend some of those requirements, keeping in mind that this applies to all our boards and all our committees. So we need to make sure that, you know, we keep some strictures in place, but we can do some modifications to accommodate what we need to do.
Do we have the authority to not be consistent with the governor's order?
You don't really have the authority to do away with the physical quorum, but the regulations as to how you can participate virtually, since we're going back to normal, would fall back under this resolution. So we need to modify this resolution so that those that are not physically here can participate to the fullest as they are now. Because once we go back to normal, we fall back under our old resolution. So we would need to tweak that or suspend it so that we can accommodate those that would not technically be appearing in person.
So if a commission member was participating remotely, they would be able to vote then on those quasi-judicial and public hearing items?
If we either amend the resolution or if we suspend it, yes, because that's what we're doing now. The only thing the governor's order did was suspend the physical quorum requirements. There's really nothing, and we've looked, you know, several city attorneys have discussed this issue because it's obviously affecting all 31 cities in Broward County. There's really nothing out there that prevents, for example, the public from appearing and participating virtually, as long as the proper notice and the proper technology is in place for them to participate. So that can certainly continue. The only thing the governor had really addressed was the physical quorum aspect after he obtained the attorney general opinion from Ashley Moody. So that we don't have flexibility with, but with the remainder, because it's dictated by our resolution, we probably do.
So is it my understanding then that the commission would still, some of the commissioners would still want to participate remotely, keeping in mind that we would have to amend what Alan had indicated we need amending our resolution regarding voting and participation. But we would still need 3 people to be here in commission chambers.
I think it's a good idea, and I think we should amend it so if we have another emergency like a hurricane or something, we still have the opportunity to gather and take votes, and other boards can do the same. I don't know. I support it, and I'm happy to come in, you know, or stay home, whatever you guys want.
Okay.
Yeah, I support it as well. And just so I'm clear, amending what?
We have resolution 12-84, which dictates how a commissioner or any board member can participate remotely. That was obviously passed in 2012 with obviously no mind of a pandemic coming, you know, 8 years later. So we can amend that particular resolution to accommodate what now is a new reality, or we can also in the short term suspend it so that, you know, we have that flexibility because we're still under a state of emergency. We can travel under that as well.
Gotcha.
Mayor?
Okay.
So that would be something I would have to suspend because it's an emergency order?
Correct. You could do that temporarily. And in the meantime, or we could, for the next meeting, we could have something ready where we can propose a resolution with some tweaks to it that would seemingly accommodate to the best that we can under state law, accommodate, you know, the status quo as much as possible since most want to participate. And we're also encouraging people to participate remotely from the public because we simply don't have the physicality here to accommodate folks coming here. So we can tweak it and present it to you at the next meeting.
Mayor?
So, yeah, okay, go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, Alan just said at the next meeting, but we have to have this in place before the next meeting because our next meeting is November 5, and we're assuming that the governor's order is expiring at the end of this month. So we'd have to do something to take action before the next meeting.
Mayor,
Well, you could. I mean, we can temporarily suspend it for that period of time, but honestly, if you came to the meeting, you passed the resolution, it's a resolution, not an ordinance. You don't need a second reading. Once that resolution takes immediate effect, then you can proceed as normal. So if you have a
Okay.
physical quorum, you'll still be required to do. If you want your first order of business to be the resolution, it'll take care of everything at that point. If there's board meetings that are not accommodated by that prior to our November 5th date for the next meeting, then possibly we could do a quick declaration just suspending the resolution.
So maybe we can do a walk-on tonight because I think the vice mayor has a point. I have the resolution in front of me, Steve. So maybe between meetings, I can read this and figure out with Alan how we can modify it. This was something that was signed back in 2012. So it's all before our time. So,
Mayor,
yes.
do we all want to come in? Because if we all want to come in, maybe we don't even need this. But would a few of us prefer to stay home? I don't know.
Well, all right, with the partitions being put up, is there someone that would want to stay home? I guess that's a very good question. If we're just talking for nothing, then because
I would want to stay home.
You'll want to stay home?
I'd like to stay home.
Well, here's the problem, Mayor. Here's the problem, I think. I think right now, politically, folks are trying to say, you know, we're out of the water. We're not out of the water. The numbers are increasing until I feel better. I know what I'm going to do for me, my family, anybody that I can direct to, you know, stay out of as much as you can in terms of public meetings, gatherings, and what have you. So I'm going to err on the side of caution. So I do not wish to return until we get to better numbers, or I feel better about what we're doing internally to protect folks.
Well, Robert, I sympathize with what you're saying, but I don't want our votes to be invalidated because we didn't qualify for the quorum requirements. So,
I don't think that's an issue based on what Alan's saying, because that's a resolution that we can modify or suspend so that we can be allowed to continue to work and do our votes. I'm not trying to take away from our work or our processes. I'm just trying to protect myself, my colleagues, and the employees and the public.
Okay, and you're right. So I have the resolution right here. So I'll sit with Alan when we have our break, and then we can see what we can maybe do a walk on tonight and modify it accordingly. Alrighty. Anything else, Commissioner Moritas?
I do have a couple of things, but I think it's my understanding that 3 of us still need to come to the building physically, so we have quorum, and the other 2 can work remotely. So I think we still need 3 of us to come in.
Well, I'll leave that at your discretion. I'm hopeful that we can get more people in chambers than we have so far. I feel very lonely up here. The IT guy and I are up here.
All right, but we'll figure this out later. I think that's the law. We can't go around the governor's law that says we need a quorum. We can just amend our resolution that says you can vote if you're physically not in the building. So the rest of you think about who would like to come in and sit with us. All right, next. So I was thinking when we were at our joint meeting, and I know you want to talk about it later, Mayor, but I thought we were coming up with a transportation master plan for our entire city. I thought, Ben Rogers, I don't know if you're on, I thought we were working on that. And maybe you weren't thinking about the tunnel versus the bridge type thing. Maybe that's not part of it, but are we currently kind of moving forward with that, or at least what are you thinking?
Hey, good afternoon, Ben Rogers. Yeah, Commissioner, you're correct. We were moving forward with the transportation master plan when we were partnering with the MPO, and since we took an alternate course, that kind of stopped the beginning efforts of that. So that's one of the things that we're looking at, reprioritizing, reposition ourselves so we can get that going again. I think once we get a couple staff members on board, we can get a little more momentum. So we're probably delayed by a couple months, but we have posted positions and we're actively recruiting at this time.
Okay,
Ben,
so Ben, go ahead.
just a question, but Ben, the subjects that were talked about today at the joint meeting were really more focused on the interchange that is being anticipated with the bridge tunnel of the FEC Railroad, the bus station, as well as some yet to be determined pathway for an elevated or ground level light rail system that the county has been talking about coming down or through Broward Boulevard. And that interchange is going to directly impact the logistics of placing a government center right at this location at Brickell and Broward. That's really what I thought the conversation was about, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And unfortunately, most of those jurisdictions are not city jurisdictions. Broward would be county, and the bridge probably FDOT.
And that's the problem. And I spoke to the commissioners as we were leaving. I said, this is really in your purview, but it's in our front yard. I said, we need to be part of that conversation. And they indicated to me that, we need to be consulted first before they do anything. Well, I like that point of view. But at the same time, I know that they have Amendment 2 that's currently being voted on, which is going to emasculate some of our ability to make decisions for county paid for projects that relate to transportation. But at the same time, that's going to impact whether or not this is the correct site for us to build such a government center. If they're planning on building a bridge that's going to run right up against this building, what's the point? What's the point of spending money on a fancy building or an architecturally significant building if it's going to be obliterated by an elevated bridge? Maybe we should set it back, or maybe this isn't the time to have a joint building together. I don't know, but I do know that Commissioner Beam Fur made a very good point that some decisions have to be made pretty quickly before we can move forward, because it's going to impact whether or not this joint complex is going to make sense for the city of Fort Lauderdale. Anyway.
So I guess when Ben Rogers, when you're looking at that master plan, obviously you're looking at it along, even though we're not with MPO, this would be, the master plan would be in conjunction with MPO to make sure all of our priorities are aligning correctly. So I think it's important that we continue on with that master plan while analyzing everything that was discussed today. So I think we probably could report that back to the county that, we do have it in the works already for a master plan, transportation master plan, and we'll add those elements, or at least analyze those elements as we, explore where this building will be and how all sorts of transportation will connect to it. So, okay, just wanted to mention that. Hold on a second. Okay, so I think the school board just voted. I want to thank Alan and Chris. They did a great job making sure that we can play our first football game next Thursday. We had to get a couple votes passed. So the school board already voted yes. Do we know if the county approved the school board's plan? I think they were meeting with the school board right after we got off with them. So I don't know if anyone has that update. Yes, but hopefully I'm sure they voted yes.
But maybe Zoe's been tracking that, and I see Zoe's on the call. Zoe, can you
Zoe can
weigh in if you know any more than about the one vote?
I can weigh in. The school board voted. I'm looking at the Broward County agenda to see when it's on so that I can listen to that.
Yeah, and Zoe, I know John Sullivan was talking to him too. Maybe we just follow up with him via email. He can let us know too. So that'll be exciting. And so I think that's the last hurdle. So we're ready to play. Hopefully you all can come to that first game.
When is it, Commissioner?
Next Thursday at 7.
Next Thursday, not this Thursday, but the following Thursday.
A week from Thursday.
Week from Thursday.
Yeah, the 29th at 7. It'll be Fort Lauderdale High School and Dillard High School. So it'll be a great inaugural game. Also, speaking of Lockhart, I know we went back and forth a little bit at our last meeting talking about naming Lockhart Stadium. And maybe we're not able to name the stadium Lockhart, but a couple, I don't know, maybe one of you all even suggested it, just naming that space, the 64 acres, Lockhart Park. not designating it as a park, because then that may get into some regulations that we don't want on the property, but just naming it Lockhart Park. It's my understanding if we are going to name something that we may need a resolution to do so. I just don't want there to be any discrepancies in the future about the name of the parcel when, we are no longer here. And so that's why I would like it to be a resolution where we vote to name that space Lockhart Park. So I don't know kind of what we need to do moving forward. We probably need some letter from Inter Miami kind of agreeing with us, not that it would change anything they are naming out there. But I think it would make sense that we.
Commissioner, what part of the real estate did you want to designate as Lockhart Park or Lockhart Campus? What would
Park kind of makes sense, like it's just Lockhart Park.
So what part of it, like the whole camp, the whole 60-something acres?
The whole 64 acres, yes.
54 acres. Yeah.
The whole 64 acres, and that way it is, and I believe Inter Miami is already referring to things like, such and such at Lockhart Park, or, this stadium at Lockhart Park. And when we have, signs off of 95, I know there's still a sign off of 95 that says, Lockhart Stadium. I don't think they've even taken that down yet. So just things like that. It would just be named, it'd be referred to, we would vote on it. It would just be Lockhart Park. So both sides, community side, this side.
Help cement the heritage and the history of the Lockhart name and its association with Fort Lauderdale. Do we want to refer to the Parks, Recreation and Beaches Advisory Board? Is that something that we should do, or do we want to do that?
We can, if you'd like. I think it's important to do. So I don't know if referring it to them would be just as a courtesy, or allowing them to weigh in. I think they'd probably approve it. So I don't know if we take something to them if we're not going to do it. And the reason it's a little time sensitive, it doesn't necessarily have to be walked on tonight, but I could walk it on tonight and be in support of that.
I think it's a good idea.
I think as a courtesy, maybe we should.
Well, let me tell you, I actually have the Lockhart family coming in town on Friday, and I'm taking them out for the property.
Now you tell us.
Let's move it forward tonight. Move it forward.
Well, how about this? Since it's not a park, as you mentioned, Commissioner, why don't we just get with the attorney, and then the attorney gets with the lobbyist that bought the project to us, who has the ear of the folks who we're leasing it to, since we all expressed our sentiments to keep the Fort Lauderdale and the Lockhart name there in some fashion, and I'm sure they can work it out. We put this deal on the table in a month and a half, and got a stadium built in less than 8 months. So I think they can take care of this within the next 24 hours, right, Alan?
Well, Alan,
yeah, correct. We have to work with Inter Miami because technically under the comprehensive agreement, they have exclusive rights to any part of their parcel on that side. So we couldn't unilaterally just name the whole 54 acres, anything else. So we'd have to work in conjunction with them and possibly have a site agreement. But no, I mean, it's true to the extent that they're in agreement, we can certainly put something together.
But Alan, if you go back to the records, I know what I specifically said, and it's on the record, about Fort Lauderdale name being present as a landmark when you come to say. I knew that they were going to take over everything else, and they're going to have all the rights, but I said it time and time again. So we can refer to that. I know that's in the record. I know some of us were searching our memories the other day as to if we said it, but again, my recommendation is what you just mentioned, and it's because I said it, is that between Stephanie Toothaker, yourself, and Miami, we can get this Lockhart name there, I think, as soon as Thursday.
Well, I do want to state for the record, I have spoken to Stephanie Toothaker about this, and she does, she has indicated that Inter Miami would be supportive. I want to give them one more chance to, put whatever in writing and make sure it works for them also. Like I said, we're not naming any structure on their side anything else. We're just going to name the entire parcel that. And so maybe, like I said, Stephanie did say that worked for them. So maybe we could just put something in writing and maybe bring a resolution back. You know, maybe I could say for now, we are planning on calling it Lockhart Park when I have the family out there, and then we vote on it. I'd like to vote on it because I want this to live on beyond me. So I think we need to vote, but I'm okay whatever the vote happens. Let's just work out those details.
I think your suggestion has tremendous merit, and I'm not sure we can do it tonight, but I do think at some point we need to confer with the Inter Miami Beckham folks, because as Alan said, there were certain aspects to the agreement that gave them certain prerogatives that I want to make sure that we're not contradicting. So,
so that's good on that. My last thing, I participated in the Florida League of Cities, a virtual meeting this past week, and they did really talk about the need to come together for vacation rentals. You know, statewide, all of our cities really lobbying our legislature to try to get some more authority to regulate some vacation rentals. You know, we don't have official HOAs in our city. That's why we have problems. You can go to a different city, and if you have an HOA, they can regulate vacation rentals. So the reason we don't hear this statewide is because most of the older cities, or a lot of the older cities, we are struggling, but the newer cities are not. So like I said, HOAs don't have this problem, and we only have civic associations, so we can't regulate vacation rentals like an HOA can. So anyways, they want to get together for that. And we did talk about the smoking on the beach, and the Florida League of Cities and our Broward League of Cities did say once we pass that resolution that they'll take it and pass it around and try to get that going statewide too. So thank you all.
Okay, great. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, everybody. Just a few things. Calendar, I wanted to thank all of the neighborhoods along the 13th Street corridor and Colleen Lockwood for putting together a terrific meeting on October 7th. I attended that with 5 neighborhoods along that corridor. Also that evening, Victoria Park Civic Association. The next day on the 13th, the Swimming Hall of Fame Board of Directors meeting, and that's a great energized group there. Also that evening, attended the Council of Fort Lauderdale Civic Association's meeting. On the 14th, we had a special TMA meeting and dealing with a lot of the changes that are coming down the road with the TMA, as we all know. Also that evening, I attended the Sailboat Bend Civic Association meeting, and I wanted to thank Chris Cooper and Trish Logan for all the work they did with regards to the Historic Preservation Board fees that are coming back to us this evening. The neighborhood really appreciated that, and so do I. Thank you. Thursday the 15th, I had a meeting with the Isles neighborhoods and the Corradino group. A lot of discussion there, and that'll all get fleshed out when we meet together again with the entire Las Olas Mobility Working Group. Also that evening, I attended the Lake Ridge Civic Association meeting. Coming up, we'll be speaking at the Neighborhood Leadership Academy on Wednesday the 21st. Also Flagler Village's meeting that night, as is Poinsettia Heights. Thursday the 22nd coming up, Central Beach Alliance will be meeting. And on the 24th, Saturday, the Sailboat Bend Preserve, there will be a volunteer cleanup day in that preserve. On the 27th, South Middle River Civic Association is meeting. On the 28th, we're going to have a town home groundbreaking for Lineo in Lake Ridge at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. On the 29th, I'll be hosting the District 2 Neighborhood President virtual roundtable meeting. Also, just to end this, on the 30th, I wanted to just mention we've been advertising this in our constant contacts, but we have the Broward County Segment 2 and Sand Bypass informational webinar, and we can give out more information about that, but that's very important. Saturday, October 31, Victoria Park will be doing a Halloween parade. They are totally revamping what they typically do every year with Halloween celebration. This year it will be a car parade. As we know, October 28th through November 1st is the Fort Lauderdale International Boat Show. On the 3rd of November, I believe it's Election Day. On the 4th of November, Victoria Park Civic Association will be meeting. And also, Mayor, if tonight maybe we could do a moment of silence. I don't remember us doing one at our last meeting. for Rick Case, and I might have just forgotten if we did, but I think we should be doing a moment of silence for Rick Case. And also, more recently, Alan Levy passed away. I just thought that we should do a moment of silence for both of them. Alan was a District 2 resident, a resident of the area for more than 70 years, so involved in at-risk youth activities and education activities, arts activities, you name it, United Way, very involved, gave up so much time and energy and passion, and he just passed away on October 7th. And that's it for me, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Can I just step back? You had made a comment about the Las Olas mobility study, and I know that you and Commissioner Sorensen have been working on this. There comes up oftentimes in conversations from certain residents about crosswalks along the residential area of Las Olas, because there currently are no crosswalks or any way for pedestrians to traverse Las Olas Boulevard. Has that been contemplated at all in any of the discussions or the findings in this study that you folks have been entertaining?
Well, that's a big part of what folks from the beach all the way to almost 15th actually do want, and they have been pushing. There's been no finalized plan, just we've had one conceptual plan presented, and at this time I've had several meetings with the folks in the District 2 portion of the corridor. That's very important to them, and Joe Corradino knows that. Also, we've had lots of discussions about more safety right around the bridges, actually, in terms of safety because of the way the bridges were constructed when they were redone a couple of years ago. So yes, that will have to be something that's done. Now, I know that some people want to not wait until we actually do whatever it is we're going to finalize with the Las Olas Mobility Working Group. And I was planning on having those conversations with Ben Rogers to see if in the meantime we could do something like that, or did that have to wait until the entire Corradino work was completed. But yes, that's been something that folks in the aisles have been asking for quite a while.
So what is the timetable on this mobility study?
Well, the original timetable was that the Corradino group was supposed to come back to the full commission by the end of this year for us to take a look at a plan. That was the last timetable that we had. Folks on the District 2 side of the corridor are saying that maybe they would just like a little bit more time, or they would like a little bit more time to refine what it is exactly they have. They have presented us with an alternative to the 3 alternatives for that section of the corridor that Corradino's come up with. So they have what they've called an alternative 4. And I would assume that when we gather together again as an entire Las Olas Mobility Working Group, which I certainly hope will be sometime next month, we'll be able to take a look at that more comprehensively.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that it?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, Commissioner McKenzie. Commissioner McKenzie, do you have anything you'd like to, you're on mute. All right, we'll come back to Commissioner McKenzie.
No, I'm sorry about that. No, I don't have anything to report, Mayor.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. Commissioner Sorensen.
Thanks, Mayor. Wanted to recognize Chief Rhoda Mae Kerr. She was inducted in the National Fire Heritage Center Hall of Legends, class 2021. So we got a legend amongst us. Obviously, many more than just one legend, but just want to celebrate that.
I thought you were a legend too.
Well, in my own mind, and that might be the only person's mind I'm a legend in. So
that was a great quote, Ben.
Thank you. Thank you. Every once in a while, I come up with something smart. Not too often. Great. So wanted to celebrate that, Mayor. Wanted to revisit the county meeting we just had. So, and thank you for helping me make that point of, I think it'd be helpful if we met every other month with the county. So that would get us to December. And what I kind of wanted to do, but I think we need to, and our staff can do this, is just make clear that what we're trying to accomplish each meeting. So next,
Well, it gives us a deadline
exactly.
to look forward to, and to, like, we need to get something done for the next meeting. So you're absolutely, I couldn't agree with you more. It makes a lot of sense.
Thank you. Beautiful. So maybe next meeting, and Alan and Chris, feel free to weigh in, or other, commissioners. So maybe we have the ILA, the updated ILA. Maybe that's what we evaluate.
That's
Mayor.
what we're working on now. Correct.
Okay. And then maybe I forget, I couldn't tell who raised it, but someone raised hearing AECOM's proposal. And I think if I heard it right, the county attorney said that would be fine. We could do that. So maybe that
was Commissioner Udine.
Okay. And did
there isn't anybody else, who would want to participate. It's, once the process begins, anybody can certainly participate.
Sure. So it seems like we could, evaluate the ILA and then also hear from AECOM maybe at the next meeting. Is that fair, Mayor? Obviously pending the counties.
At our joint meeting?
Yeah.
I don't know. Alan, is it ripe for that yet?
Well, we have to come up with whatever changes we're going to make to the ILA to accommodate what we project you all will have to be doing in the near and further future. As to the presentation by the Unsolicited proposal, yes, it's possible, but the issue again becomes whether that presentation to the UDPA is public or not. So that issue still hasn't been resolved. Although they can make a presentation, what was not raised today was whether that was going to be in the shade or whether it was not going to be in the shade. And that's the dispute that's currently in court. So I don't know what the county's position is on that currently with the case pending. So it's certainly possible, but it would be sort of a hybrid meeting where part of it might have to be in the shade. But I have not talked to my counterpart at the county with regards to what we're exactly proposing with regards to amending the ILA. I don't think it'll be difficult to do, but we haven't touched base yet as to what type of changes we need to make.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, and so I do have some ideas to how we're going to amend that ILA. So Alan Cohen, that is, will bring Alan into at least what he and I have been talking about. And I heard for the first time this morning from the lobbyist representing the unsolicited that's in, that they think they've made some traction at the county level to be able to do a public presentation. And they have consented, at least he told me on the phone this morning, that they have consented to do one outside of the shade if they would be granted the platform to do it.
Great. Okay. So it could be, if I'm hearing you right, Chris, you're saying a joint UDPA meeting, public meeting, we could amend the ILA, approve it, and also hear a public hearing from AECOM, possibly.
If we wanted to hear that presentation,
okay.
If the attorney didn't say that it would run afoul of the lawsuit that's pending right now. And maybe all that's forgivable if we do it the right way, but.
Because if I heard the county attorney right, I thought the county attorney said AECOM could present before or after the ILA amendment. I don't know if I was hearing that right.
Yeah, they could present. I mean, since no decision is, if the UDPA is not going to make any decision upon that presentation, I don't think it matters if the ILA is in place or not. It's just that if they want to act or make any sort of decision in furtherance of it or against it or whatever it may be, then the ILA would have to be in place.
Okay, great. So regardless, so December would be, every other month from now. So can we, Chris or Alan, can you all work on trying to find a date?
Yes. I can work with the county and see if any of our meetings line up on in December. Excuse me. And if in fact they do, then we'll push towards that day and see if we can solidify a day sooner rather than later, so that everybody can get it on their calendars.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, next topic, Halloween. So I think it'd be helpful if the city came out with some guidance for Halloween. LA County, I think, is doing the right thing, which is basically suggesting, the city would encourage no, physical trick-or-treating, no Halloween parties would just be the encouragement. Please try to socially distance and have, smaller, individual Halloween gatherings. I think it'd be helpful.
we've been working on a set of protocols.
Oh, great.
So but I agree with you. Some people would like something from their city to see, how if we can create some guidelines for the community. But we do not want this to be a super spreader event. And the good thing about Halloween is everyone's wearing masks anyway. So the point is, though, let's see if we can try to make it a healthy undertaking without having to take the moment away from the children. Alrighty. Anything else?
So Mayor, you're going to release
I'll put together something. We can circulate it. If you have any comments, then we'll put out a final thing.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that sounds great. I think that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, great. I just have a couple of things. I received and maybe this should go to Chris. I received an email, a strongly worded email from the Central City CRA, wondering why the rezoning process has stalled. Chris, do you have any information to give us on where we are with the rezoning process with the Central City CRA, or maybe Clarence could chime in on this?
Clarence, or maybe even Anthony. Let's start with Anthony, then maybe go to Clarence, because I think this was the one that we got near the finish line. Clarence has come up on video. Clarence, do you want to take a first stab at that, or I get confused with all the different zoning redos we're doing in the downtown, who's actually leading which one. So let's let Clarence take a stab at it and then see if Anthony has anything he can weigh in additionally.
So we as you mentioned, Chris, and good evening, everyone, Mr. Mayor and Vice Mayor and the rest of the commission. We did put it out again, but did not finish his work. We were not happy with what the work product was there. So we did put it out. We do have a consultant, and it's in.
Clarence, you're breaking up, and we're not able to.
Now, that once they have a signed agreement. Can you hear me?
You're breaking up.
Can you hear me now?
We seem to have problems. If you're in your office, Clarence, we always have problems when you're there for some reason with the connectivity. I don't know if our Wi-Fi is bad there at the CRA or what. So let's see if it comes around.
We do have problems.
Anthony Fajardo.
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Your internet connection and see if it's a little less choppy. This was the Central City rezoning. That was something that you've had some play in too as well, correct? As it related to us not getting the whole scope of work done within the first set of, help me put some context to that.
Yes, so good evening, everybody. Anthony Fajardo, Sustainable Development Director of City of Fort Lauderdale. The issue was that the previous consultant wasn't able to finish the scope of work. And so when Don Morris was still here, and with approval of the commission, he went out for a rebid. A new consultant has been chosen, but I'm not sure the status of where that process is. I think that's what Clarence was trying to clarify. I'm not involved in that discussion in terms of the paperwork to get the consultant moving on the project, so I don't have an update for that. But it's my understanding that the consultant's been picked, and once we can get them moving, we'll have the project back up and running.
All right, can we have a report at our next conference meeting as to where we are on that? So that this was a campaign promise I made in 2013. I mean, it's 7 years now. So it's really unfortunate that it's taking this long to accomplish what I think was something that could have been accomplished more quickly. So Anthony and Clarence, could you please see what you can do to come back to us with a more concrete response to the neighbors so that we can move forward on this?
Yes, Mayor, I don't think that's a problem at all. We'll have it available for you.
Great, thank you.
How's your connection?
Yes,
you good?
I'm trying to connect on the phone. So if my understanding is that I am choppy, so I'm going to try to connect on the phone.
Okay.
Still can't hear me. Okay.
All right, very good. Thank you. Holiday lighting. Any ideas on what we should do with regard to that? I mean, I don't think we're going to encourage the gatherings that we had in the past. While there were lots of fun, I think we're going to have to pass on that that method this year. Any ideas on how we might still be able to do a lighting event or events and do it in a safe way? Any ideas, Commissioner Moritas? Anybody?
Mayor?
Any thoughts? Yeah.
How about like at one given time, we have a citywide light up, like the whole city, like we combine all of those light up events into one night. It could be very spectacular. We don't have people gather, but because it's going to be every single one of the light ups that we always do, whether it's Sistrunk Beach, North Beach, by Oakland Park Boulevard, downtown, whatever, that might be something quite interesting if we just do it all at once.
The whole city lights up?
The whole city lights up in a big way, and music and fireworks, and everyone stays home and the whole city lights up at one time. That's just a thought.
Fireworks.
Well, I think that's a good idea, but I also think our businesses need people to come eat at their venues. So maybe it's a little bit of a mix, like the tree lights up or some fireworks, but also, like you mentioned, some music. Maybe there's one spot of music, but I think it's good to do a little something where the businesses can follow the regulations that are in place, but we do something so we can advertise it and drive people to our districts that need that bump right now. So
what would that look like, though? I mean,
well, just like Steve said, a little bit of fireworks, a little bit of music, a little bit of lighting up. You know, put one night. Put it in the water bill that all my residents love to see every month. They hardly even open it anymore. So now let's put it in something else. Put it in something. So like you said, just I think the advertising to drive people to certain spaces for a night helps our businesses. And I know, especially in the North Beach shops, they would appreciate something like that.
Someone in our community, Genia Ellis, suggested that we go from venue to venue, you know, like Esplanade, Sistrunk, all the parks that we've been to, Las Olas, the beach, and have like a lighting ceremony, like a train of going from area to area and lighting them up one by one.
I like that idea.
You like that idea?
Yeah.
Good. Don't forget about District 1.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hey, forget it. I didn't want to forget District 1.
I don't know. Maybe we could broadcast live from our different districts, and the city could, like, I could be in my district, like they do on New Year's Eve. They have like LA and New York City, and I'd really like to see all of you lighting up your space and I'd live. Maybe do something like that. That could be fun.
Commissioner, you could be Commissioner. You could be Kathy Griffin, and I'll be Anderson Cooper, and we'll do like a CNN.
I'm thinking some other names, but I'll go with you. Maybe someone from Fox, maybe. I don't know. We could have fun, but I think that the moving around might take a while. But I think we could still celebrate somehow, some way, and let's not miss this opportunity. We had fireworks in all different parts of our city, including District 1, and it worked. So let's do something small like that.
Does someone want to like form a committee to figure this out and come back to the commission at the next meeting with some ideas? How about a committee of two? Commissioners,
I'll do it.
Moritas and Commissioner Sorensen. Okay. Commissioner Sorensen and Commissioner Moritas, do you want to come back with some ideas? Oh, I'm sorry. You can't both meet. I'm sorry. You can't meet because it's sunshine. Unless they notice a meeting.
If they do a public meeting and discuss it, yeah.
We can.
But they can't.
We can notice a meeting. Let's notice a meeting, and yeah. And if the other commissioners want to join too, they can join too. I mean,
should we discuss this as a conference item next time we meet, and maybe get some input from our districts, and then bring it back at our next?
Yeah, I think so. Why don't you do that? Why don't you go back to your districts, come back with ideas, and maybe that's less complicated. Let's convene and let's make it an agenda item at the next conference meeting and figure out what we're going to do. When is that? That would be November 5th, right?
Thursday.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Does that give us, or from a merchant perspective, is that enough time to pick a date? In other words, when this would happen, they'd have a month basically. I think that's enough, right?
It could be in December, you know.
Right.
obviously.
They'd have a month from November to December, is what I'm saying.
Right. We'd have to pick a date, maybe come back to the conference.
Come back with a date for December.
Yeah, with a date.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, I know some people have already set up their Christmas trees, but I think we can wait till December.
You know, they're still doing Light Up Las Olas, and that is December 1st. So maybe we just, I don't know, we probably don't want to compete with Light Up Las Olas, so.
Or we can collaborate with Light Up Las Olas.
Or collaborate, but they probably
That's
want
on a Tuesday. Isn't that on a Tuesday? It's the first Tuesday?
Tuesday, yes.
It's the first Tuesday after Thanksgiving?
Tuesday, December 1st. Yep, right after Thanksgiving.
All right. Moving on. Getting a lot of interest from the community about pickleball courts. And there's an interest in reconfiguring some of the tennis courts at Georgia English Park into pickleball courts. Do you have any thoughts on that, Commissioner Moritas?
Well, I do love pickleball, and I thought we kind of answered that last time when we said we were building more courts and stuff like that. What else?
Did we answer that? Did we answer it?
Yeah, we had staff come on and tell us all the things we were doing with, I think Phil gave us an update. We are retrofitting some courts. We are putting down new tape so you could play pickleball or tennis. I don't know. Am I making this up?
Well, I don't know.
I thought we discussed it.
Phil, are you on the line?
Yeah. We discussed it 2 weeks ago, maybe. I don't know.
Phil, are you there? Yeah, you're there.
I am here, Mayor. So to Commissioner Moritas' point, we have in the short term added some pickleball lines to some of the tennis courts around the city to provide that service. The hardcore pickleball players will tell you that the tennis nets are, I think, 4 inches higher than a pickleball net. So they are saying that's a nice temporary fix, but not a long-term fix. So the idea would be, and we're well aware of the concerns and the requests from the pickleball community. So, but there's of course many other requests out there as well. So we are having that as part of our Parks Bond discussion as we do our outreach, because some of the ideas that the pickleball community has brought forward would heavily impact either Holiday Park or George English Park. So we don't want to do that without bringing the community and everybody else into that discussion as well. So we're aware of the request, and at this point, the plan is to have that discussion during the Parks Bond discussions throughout the city.
So, Commissioner Moritas, this brings up another subject, which I want to just throw out there. I don't expect you to answer today, but there's been some thought about repurposing some of the land that we have out by Lockhart, areas that have not yet been programmed, to maybe put permanent pickleball courts in that area. And in addition to that, there's been some discussion about setting up, possibly creating spectator stands with tennis courts to invite competition events to take place in Fort Lauderdale, where now they're taking place elsewhere, because you can't really have it at Holiday Park because there's no viewing stands. And something to think about. I'm just throwing it out there to as we continue to look to program the city's balance of the land that is not taken up by Inter Miami. Have you been approached in any way about anything like this, Commissioner?
I have not, but I have. We are going to have pickleball at. We are planning on having pickleball at the Lockhart Park Community Center, just like Phil does at the Beach Community Center. They have pickleball inside and they have ping pong inside. So I know we kind of were looking at that, the footprint of that building, kind of for the
Something
footprint
to
of
think
ours.
about.
And
Yeah, something to
so
think
I
about.
think all of our indoor community centers Phil, that's another opportunity. What the pickleball people are talking about, I believe, is more of a competition level space where they can have competitions, obviously. Like I think they're doing it in Naples, Florida. So we don't have the space at Lockhart for that, but I do know we can retrofit the inside of every single community center for some additional pickleball courts. Now, if we want to build a pickleball competition field, then I think we just need to identify some land and tear down a building and build it. And I'd be happy to entertain that somewhere in District 1. There's a lot of great parcels out near Lockhart, but the green space, we don't have that space out there to add hard pickleball courts.
All right, something to think about, because it would be great if we could draw a competition to Fort Lauderdale on these emerging sports. I've never played pickleball. I don't know what the court looks like or how it's used, but certainly whatever we can do to continue to draw attention to our city through sports, I think would really be a great thing for our community, especially sports where people can participate as opposed to just to spectate.
Well,
Mayor?
I know.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Commissioner Moritas.
I know every district has about $7 million to acquire some park space, and I've spent $1 million in my district. I'd be happy to earmark, another $1 million or so, and buy a great piece of property, and then make that a ball space. So let's keep talking.
Okay.
Yes, and that's a great idea. Also, Mayor, what about possibly when we get done with the work that's going to happen in Holiday Park with War Memorial Auditorium, we might be able to do some indoor pickleball again in the auditorium.
Well, help me out here? Is pickleball an indoor sport or an outdoor sport?
Both.
Well, I think
Either.
Both.
It's basically a smaller tennis court, Mayor.
Okay, so it can be played indoors then.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, very good.
I think this is really coming from more the competition type group too, and I could be wrong, Phil, but I had a conversation with them when they were really pushing to make the complex, the pickleball complex, where everyone could go. Do you think that's where this is going, Phil? Also,
Phil, do you want to respond to that?
It is. We are, like I say, I've spoken to the pickleball community numerous times. They've come to our advisory board numerous times. So this is not new, and we understand their request. But the challenge is finding the space and building the site. But with the idea of looking to acquire new land, we can do that. I think some want to see it downtown, which it doesn't need to be, but they believe that maybe that makes sense for whatever reason. But we can start to look at land and look at what it would cost to develop a complex. But that is what they're wanting. They're wanting a 15 to 20 court complex that can draw from all over the Florida and around the country.
yeah. Well, let's look at that, Phil, out near Lockhart somewhere. Let's talk about it when we have our meetings about District 1 parks. I'd be happy to pursue that further, Mayor.
Very good. Finally, and Commissioner Sorensen, this will involve you, has to do with Broadview Park. About the water utility property to be put on the market for developers. Do you want to give us a little background on that?
Sure. Yeah. So this is the idea of taking the city land there. We have our water wells there and looking at affordable housing, workforce housing. Mayor, I think maybe, I don't know, a year and a half ago or something, we had talked about it as a commission and talked about the housing authority of the city of Fort Lauderdale moving forward with some possibilities there, which right. I think makes all the sense, right? All the sense in the world to kind of continue exploring that. The only other option would be if we did not go with the housing authority, which I think makes all the sense in the world, but would be going with a private developer. And I think just given COVID and budgetary impacts, it's worth just having a brief discussion as a commission to make sure kind of, where we want to head with this and just make sure we're doing the right thing and then really move forward quickly, I think, with whatever decision we think's best.
So where is that conversation at this point? Is it on the shelf? Or?
Yeah. So, I mean, Chris can chime in, but well, Chris, I'll let you kind of, yeah.
Yeah. So, we were moving forward with the housing authority still, like the commissioner says, probably a very good idea. We were approached by those that manage our real estate with Colliers, who looked at several different open properties that we had and showed us the way that if we were to, not necessarily from a development perspective using the housing authority, but how we would monetize each of the particular sites. They believed that there was an opportunity to monetize that site and end up with the same product in the end and not just do it for $1 a year. And so obviously with us not knowing right now what our revenues are going to look like in the next years as we don't know what a COVID digest looks like yet. I just didn't want to write off the opportunity for there to be a revenue opportunity if the outcome ended up being the same. And if the outcome ends up being different, then we have to pick which outcome we want. But if the outcome ends up the same, we probably should just at least take a couple minutes to explore to make sure we're not leaving something on the table.
So what's the next steps there then?
Well, but for this morning, I was going to meet with Ken tomorrow. So I'll see if I can't still connect with him tomorrow and talk with him about that project as well as a couple others. And then I'll bring back an update at our next meeting.
Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I just want clarification. I think it's a great idea, as we all did when we blessed the housing authority. But it was my understanding, Ben, I don't know if you even checked or not, and you probably have, knowing you. I thought the housing authority had already started moving forward with plans, and they gave us an update one time. So I just want to make sure, we.
Yeah, the housing authority forward with some conceptual, very, very conceptual renderings as far as placement. But
that's fine, Chris. That's fine. But my point is, we gave them hope that they would be out there doing a project for us, and if that's not happening, because we get very small concepts on all these projects that we get. I don't care how big they are. They're concepts at first, but someone has an intention to do something. So a conversation needs to be had either by you or the commissioner, just to make sure they aren't moving forward and we don't create any other liabilities just because another opportunity presented itself. It's a great idea either way with me. I just want to make sure we just check what we started.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, no, we don't want to be in the position of leading anybody along.
Yeah, I think
I'll tie a bow on it and bring it back with a recommendation at the next meeting.
Okay,
yeah,
excellent.
Mayor, I think Commissioner McKenzie's spot on. So I think next meeting we'll have the data and then we can make a final move and chug ahead.
Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you, Commissioner.
If there's an opportunity to do more affordable housing, that's really our goal. So
exactly.
Okay, very good. Chris, do you have a report you want to make today?
No, I don't really have anything. I'll see if I come up with something maybe before the end of the meeting, but this next item probably has some length to it. So if it's okay.
Right, I just wanted to defer to you in case you had something before because I knew it was a long report. So I just wanted to make sure you had the ability to speak about any other matters you wanted to speak about. Okay, we move on to business one. This is an overview of an amended consent order and reports on water quality assessment in Tarpon River and George English Lake. We have two people who have signed up to speak on this. Maybe we should hear the presentation and then we can have these two folks speak. So Chris, who will be making the presentation?
Yeah, so I'll start it off and then I'm going to hand it over to Public Works, who's then going to hand it over to probably 4 or 5 different people along the way. Okay. So I'll take us back and I don't have to go into much detail because we remember it well that we had a winter full of sewer pipe breaks that impacted the Tarpon River and George English Lake and subsequently the Himmershey Canal. We're not talking about Himmershey today, but we'll talk about George English and the Tarpon River. We immediately started that repair work. As you know, we're making tremendous progress in getting new infrastructure in the ground. And in fact, I want to say if it hasn't been yet, it's within days of being able to turn on the new infrastructure from the Rio Vista neighborhood where those breaks were all the way down to the 17th Street plant. So to think that work is ready, done, and ready to cut over to is exciting. We'll let Raj give an update as to where that is. But we hired environmental consultants. As you know, we hired Wood Engineering and eSciences to do the environmental evaluation of the two areas that had impact. I'll let them describe with better clarity what they did, how they determined what the quality of the different water bodies is, and what recommendations they're making for us moving forward. And then hopefully we can build to some consensus and say, okay, in George English Park, it's clear that this is where we need to go. This is where we're going to go. And this is where we can tell the public we're going to go on a certain timeline. And same thing with the Tarpon River. So long-awaited reports and a report out. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions. And I look forward to just a good, healthy discussion on what we learned about these two scientific reviews, environmental reviews. So with that, I'll turn it over to Raj Verma, the Public Works Director.
Thank you, Chris. Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the Commission. Raj from Public Works. Let me just start first by thanking a lot of people, city staff, the consultants, and including the FDEP District Director, Jason Andrada. He was a big help trying to bridge the gap between Fort Lauderdale and Tallahassee. And certainly it was not easy. I'm going to give a very short and quick overview of how things they evolved in terms of the consent order, what the consultants did, and what were the findings, and how we reached to the conclusion we did. And after that, if there are detailed questions, we'll turn it over to respective consultants, eSciences and Wood Environmental. I just want to also mention that, I had heard with lots of people who wanted to know the status that the staff was not being, or the city was not being transparent. And I just want to make it clear that was not the case. It was a very extensive process. And I would like to commend our environmental group. Right after the events, they took the lead in retaining the services of the two very good consultants who really did a very extensive job. Between two of them, the reports are about 750 pages long. It was not easy. And there were the tests that were done, they were not concurrent tests. You had to rule one out to go to the next one and the next one and the next one. So having said that, I have a short PowerPoint that, if I may request the moderator to put on board on the screen, that would help me a lot. Okay, so the consent order basically had two requirements, but three components. The first component was the generators. The second requirement was the water quality, and the third element was the fines. The generators that they had, DEP wanted us to install all 5 generators in 6 months. And they thought that it was probably the generators that are very small generators that you could probably get it from Home Depot or something, but that was not the case. There were 2 megawatt each generators on the trucks, and they would have lined up and used up all our spaces within a very tight constraint GTL. So we had to negotiate with them, and it was a very extensive and tense negotiation. They wanted all 6. And that was the point we thought about walking away from the agreement, because the cost of installing those temporary generators, firstly, it was impossible in 6 months. And then the cost would have been $8.3 million by the time we were done installing the permanent generators. So we requested the FDEP staff, they came, they agreed with us, and they finally allowed us to have 1 generator installed to serve at least 1 deep well injection, and the cost to the city was reduced from 8.3 million that we would have been required to spend to 1.3 million. So that was something that the staff was successfully able to negotiate. The second element was the permanent generators. They wanted to be done in 24 months. And there is no way that it could have happened in 24 months. the city already had a CIP for about $15 million in the budget, except it was in fiscal year 21-25. And we felt that in 24 months, given the size, 10 megawatts total was virtually impossible. So finally, they agreed to allow us to install the permanent generators in 40 months. And that is going to require some very extensive design work and the construction time. So as you can see that those generators at our GTL, they consumed a lot of our time and effort, and to make them understand that how it was not practical and what could be done or could not be done.
Raj, can you just tell the public what are these generators? What do they do? Why do you have generators? Thanks.
The generators was that basically at the time when you lose the power, that the plants, they should have the ability to run without the power. And as a part of that water plant, not only the processing, but once the treated water is generated, they need to go into the deep injection well. And they just want to make sure that the entire system was working in unison and that there was no component failure. Although the staff has over the years taken enough precaution and the chances were slim, but nonetheless, those were the conditions and that we had to negotiate both for the time and the cost. The second issue was about the water quality, and that was very understandable that there were elements you need to estimate the amount of solids that were released as a result of those sewer breaks, and then estimate the amount of solid that were still in the waterways. And the third element was determine if water quality violations happened. Now, as you can see from these requirements, that if the water quality violation did happen, then you need to develop a corrective action plan for approval prior to execution. And if no water quality violation occurred, then you still had to develop a plan. And I apologize for the typo there. But so regardless of what happened, they wanted us to develop a water enhancement plan, which we did not have any problems with. But the problem was that in the no category, it was so ill-defined and broad brush that we just did not know where they would start, where they would end. And I don't think that Tallahassee was very clear what they wanted as well, except it was there. So we were trying to make sure that we were on the same page and that we provided what was actually needed for the benefit of the of the waterways that we wanted to bring the quality back. The third element was the fines, and they were and as you can see that they wanted from a non-sewer funds $2.1 million cash or $3.2 million worth of in-kind projects. That was like, if you were to do in-kind projects, you needed to be 50% more than the cash. And we had to just make sure that we did not, we did not have to spend this money, especially if we had to pay the cash, it would have probably come out of general fund, which was probably not the most desirable thing for us to do. So we had to find out where the water quality improvement component we could integrate with our stormwater program. And I would like to commend our stormwater team that they did a great job in terms of identifying projects that would total up to about $3.2 million. Next slide, please. So going back to the study and the impact areas, the consultant, and again, as I said before, we would let the individual consultants provide additional details based on the questions. The first one was the Tarpon River study. It was about 3,800 linear feet that is shown with a dotted boundary. And they did some extensive core drilling, water sampling, surveying, depth, everything. And they finally concluded that the impact area, they are shown on the top second slide, is 400 feet of areas that they were able to say that this was the impacted area. So they started out with 3,800 feet and they came up, the impacted area was 400 feet. The bottom two slides, they represent the George English study area. As you can see, with the yellow fonts, that those were the samples they took all around the perimeter, and there were some outside in the Middle River as well. And they did pretty much the same thing as was done for the Tarpon River. And they concluded, based on the samplings, finding, and everything else, that the impact area is on the last bottom slide that is shown in dark gray shaded area as approximately about 300 feet that was impacted, that needed to be remediated. Next slide, please. We are before we go and think in terms of, as far as the solid, the composition of the wastewater is. Wastewater is basically, if you were to put in a jar, it would be more than 99% is liquid, and far less than 1% is just the solids that you see at the bottom. So it is a very, very small percentage of solids. And within that solid, about 2/3, which is shown as 66%, is what is called volatile solid or biodegradable solid, that they degrade naturally with bacterial action, and combined with what we have with the water body flowing or splashing. The remaining 1/3 is the actual solid, which is inert, and that does not, that pretty much mirrors what we generate at the water treatment plant, and that's a very small percentage. So as you can see, that less than 1% is solids, and out of that amount, 2/3 is biodegradable, and about 1/3 is what is actual solids that is settled. And that is the solid that we are talking about at both locations. Next slide, please. This is basically, we recognize that there was at George English, that it was not an issue in terms of it was a closed water body. We identified a 300-foot area around the perimeter away from the boat ramp that needed to be cleaned up. And it is next to the park, open space, and you can try different things. Tarpon River, on the other hand, continued to possess, it was very challenging to find what was going on in Tarpon River, because it is, unlike George English Lake, which was a stagnant water body. This was not. This is a tidal water body sloping from west to east, and it's a heavy residential area. And the impact, as you can see at the bottom, right near the discharge point, was to be 400 linear feet that was determined to have been impacted as a result based on the studies. Now, this particular inert solids, in the previous slide, you have seen what a small percentage of solids are there. But in both cases, the inert solid thickness, the actual thickness is less than an inch. So you have a less than an inch thin film spread over 400 linear feet in Tarpon River, it's settled at the bottom. Now, is it causing water degradation, the water quality degradation? I think after about a month and a half, when the water testing was done, they pretty much returned to what normal levels are. And the basis has been what they called a dissolved oxygen level, and also the most probable number of the bacteria. And both of them, if it is a dry day, and you take the sample today, they would be pretty much within the normal limits. During rain event, these things they spike up, but they spike up in pretty much every area in the county, whether they have seen the sewage spill or not. So
Raj,
it is not
Raj,
very.
can I stop you? Raj, can I stop you for a second?
Yes, sir.
These inert solids, that that you indicate are at the bottom of the river, are they? You say they're not really impacting the water quality, but what about the marine life? Are they creating a permanent blanket on the bottom of the river that is preventing life from materializing? That habitats cannot be regenerated in order to bring life back into the river? Can you talk about that?
I would, yeah, I can probably let our experts, e-science folks and Hazen elaborate a little bit more on that. But one of the parameters that determine whether the marine life is impacted or not, what is called the dissolved oxygen, or the oxygen that is available in the water body to promote the life, the marine life. And the dissolved oxygen levels, they have returned pretty much to the normal levels under the circumstances. But we have Nadia Laki from eScience, and Nadia, this is probably your and Rachel's area. So if you want to chime in, please jump in.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, please speak more clearly into your microphone.
Okay, I'll try to speak up. Hopefully you can hear me better now.
Yes, much better.
Okay, perfect. I think the question is on the Tarpon River, did the inert solids create like a blanket that would have covered the bottom and prevented aquatic vegetation
from regenerating? Correct.
Okay, so we also did a survey of the bottom in conjunction with the Department of Environmental Protection, coordination with them, and also Broward County, because we wanted to identify what it looked like, what the bottom looked like, but also to see if there was submerged aquatic vegetation, seagrasses, corals, those kinds of things that are on the bottom that might be impacted by the sediment, or if, depending, to help the city make decisions on how to move forward. And then also it's a requirement as part of any permitting processes as we would move forward. So what we've identified was we didn't see an obvious black blanket, so to speak, that one might conjure up an image of sewage and see sort of, think of this sludge layer. But what we saw was bottom conditions that were similar to the rest of the river. We went inside the impact area, we went outside the impact area. We did find some organics associated, most that were typical of the river bottom, detritus, leaf litter, and that kind of thing. Our scientists indicated that particular bottom is not conducive for submerged aquatic vegetation to grow anyway. So we didn't find any impacts. We didn't find anything to impact down
Nadia, sorry, this is Commissioner Sorensen. Thanks. Just a couple questions there. So what area wasn't conducive for submerged aquatic life? The 400 feet you're talking about, or?
Well, the entire survey area, both inside the 400 feet and then also outside the study area, we went also.
So the whole 2 miles, basically.
And right, so we went and looked at areas representative outside of the area that would have been impacted to do a comparison as well. So thank you for that question.
Yeah, thanks. And can you define for everyone inert solids in this context? What does inert mean?
Mr. Commissioner, let me have Trish from Hazen. She did a special analysis for us. So she's going to explain what that means.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, Mayor and Commissioner. Sorry. Hi, Mayor and Commissioners. This is Patricia Carney with Hazen and Sawyer. So inert solids in this instance are going to be really almost like sand, mostly sand, grit material, just stuff that would also wash off of the roadways and into your storm system. So inert means it's not biodegradable, so no action. So you can't biodegrade a piece of sand, right?
Well, can inert also mean trash, debris?
Well, sure. Yeah, a piece of plastic, it would be.
Well, the thing is, you know, call me an originalist, but I know at one time this river was teeming with marine life. And we're saying that, well, the river now, even in the impacted area, is no worse off than upstream or downstream that wasn't part of the impacted area. But I'm not sure that's a good comparison. I'm not sure that's the standard we want to use. Is there an ability to regenerate through to allow photosynthesis to take place in order for us to allow seagrasses to grow once again in these rivers? Or are you saying they never did grow there ever? So that's not really a goal here. In other words, we're trying to bring back the natural habitat of these rivers and the lake in order to allow for marine life, whether it be, you know, fish or whatever, or the flora that once flourished in this area. Can we ever get to that goal, or are you saying it was never there to begin with?
Mr. Public Works Director, I would defer to e-scientists.
Yes. Let me tell. I do not know, Mr. Mayor, whether this area ever had the seagrass before or not. So that is something that we can definitely research, go back in the history and find out from all the records. But based on my personal experience that I have seen in the Indian River Lagoon in Brevard County and in the Indian River County, there has been the Banana River and the Indian River Lagoon, they have been flushed many, many years ago with seagrass. And this is one of the major criteria that even Florida Inland Navigation District uses during the permitting process. And recently it has been determined that the stormwater runoff, it contributes a lot towards the decay of seagrass. Going back to your question, firstly, we don't know if the seagrass ever existed, but even if did, a lot of stormwater runoff has probably contributed to its decay, if not demise. And by retrofitting all our stormwater projects upstream and downstream, the intent is to try and bring the health back as best as possible, trying to trap many impurities and the pollutants that impact the waterways. And I think that is also the basis of the entire stormwater permit that is required under the NPDES permit.
And Raj,
go ahead, Commissioner.
Thanks, Mayor. Is it correct to say, looking at the diagram, the 0.1 to 0.4 inches of inert solids in that 400-foot long corridor, those inert solids are the result of the sewage break? Is that correct?
Yes, I will have Trish. She did the calculation, but yes, that's what they found based on the calculations that were run, and the calculations were run based on the samples that the report that is generated from our wastewater treatment plant, and that was further done by or supported by the observation as eSciences has the report earlier. So yes, you can say that within that range, that could be attributed to to the sewage spill. And
okay.
If we were to go sorry.
No, go. I was going to say, then beyond that 400 feet, I'm assuming beyond the 400 feet, you still find inert solids on the floor of the Tarpon River. Is that right?
Yeah, you may, and you may not, because it's a tidal water body. It might have, tomorrow if we go there, we may not find anything, or we may find that it might have spread maybe a few feet here and there. So it's very difficult to say. And that's why I qualified that because it's a tidal water body, it really created a problem for us to pinpoint because of the flushing action.
So how do we remove those inert solids from the base of the river? I guess that's what we're really all getting at here.
Yeah, yes, and I think, Mr. Mayor, we are recommending that we do what is called the suction dredging of this particular area. It is just like a vacuum cleaner, if you would, and they are going to be in we have the permits for George English, and in George English Lake, we are going to be bringing in what is called the geotube, bringing the mixture and let the water go out, and the solids are going to stay inside the bag and they are going to be hauled away. And I believe
go ahead.
Sorry, no. If I may request the moderator to pull up the question and answers that I had provided, that there is a picture, or there are 3 pictures that show what a geotube looks like. It's a PDF document, the second document that I had sent to David.
So while we're waiting for that, you're saying that there is an approved method then of vacuuming up the floor of the river without upsetting the ecology of the river?
It is, Mr. Mayor, it is going to be, and that is going to be a challenge, because you are essentially looking at, here is just, can you please hold on to the first page? Yeah, this is the geotube. And as you can see, the water is the solid and the water mixture is pumped in. The water comes out, and then the solids remain inside the tube or the sock, and it's hauled away. So given the fact that we only have less than 1 inch, no matter what methodology you are going to use, you will be at least suctioning out 6 to 12 inches, preferably 12 inches of material. That is going to cause some turbidity, and that is going to cause a lot of milky water to be there. And we just want to make it very clear that this has been a concern expressed by the regulatory agencies, that there might be some old heavy metals that might be at the bottom of the river that have nothing to do with the sewage spill, could be there and could be stirred up. So we want to make clear, we want to be very clear in sharing that. And at some point in time, we have to take the calculated risk. And we believe, after checking with all the regulatory agencies, we may be able to clean, but that is going to be known only after we have obtained the permits from the regulatory agencies.
Have you taken any soil boring samples to go down those 12 inches or 20 inches to see if there are any identifiable layers that would in any way discourage you from wanting to stir up the bottom? I mean, what you're doing is you're digging up the sins of the past 100 years by entertaining this methodology. So is there any way to do a soil boring to see exactly what might be there, if anything, before you take that risk?
Yes, sir. In fact, I'm going to turn it back to Nadia. We had asked them to collect some samples and find out if there is any presence, and maybe, I'm not too sure if that analysis has been done, but maybe that is going to be part of our permit application. So Nadia, if you want to jump in, and if you have completed the investigation, share with us. If not, then we will just have to wait until we make the application.
Okay, yes, let me jump in. Yes, we have done borings. We did cores along the length of the channel, the river. And in some of those locations, we collected samples in support of the permitting. And we conducted a certain type of test and the point of this test is to see what will come off of, what contaminants might come off the soils and the sediments as they interact with the river water through the dredging process. The contaminants, so to speak, that we had identified in those samples were nitrogen and phosphorus.
And what does that do?
Well, frankly, the concentrations that we saw were basically the same. The tests indicated that the nitrogen and phosphorus that would be released into the river during the dredging process were essentially the same as the concentrations of nitrogen and phosphorus that are already in the water column and the sample locations from the new river, which this is connected to. So essentially the load is of nitrogen and phosphorus would be similar to what's already existing.
Well, we don't want to ignite an algae bloom by reintroducing nitrogen product into the waterway, right?
That's right. So what will happen is during the dredging process, the contractor will have to install certain sediment and erosion control, turbidity control measures to try to contain it as best as is reasonable. And there'll be some water quality testing as the dredging is going on.
Nadia, I assume that, so 12 inches down, I'm assuming from, surface to 12 inches down, that what is, I mean, there's mud, right? I mean, there's some kind of muck that, what's your evaluation of what's in that? Is that also some degree of inert solids, or what's in there?
Exactly. So what we saw fairly consistently throughout the study area was organic muck, as you said, that comes from the deposition of just organic material over the years, combined with sands. And we went down as deep as 5 feet in some locations. And so it was just a combination of years of sediment accumulation, both sands and organic materials.
Okay. And what's the impact? So we've got, you've got the dredging that would happen possibly, then you'd have the water quality that Mayor's touching on, the release of nitrogen and phosphorus which would get into the water, but you're saying it's not more than the levels that it currently would be at. So 2 questions, one of which is what's the impact to not the aquatic vegetation, because what I'm hearing, what you're saying is there's basically very little there, but the marine fish, so forth during the dredging. And then the next question would be more to Raj, is we're talking about what's on the bottom, which is great in removing that, Raj. And then the next question would be when we think about the water quality, improving what's in the water, not on the bottom, how we can address that through protein skimmers and other ways. So Nadia, I'll turn the first question over to you.
Okay, I was remiss in also mentioning that there is a filtration system that that we would be specifying that the contractor include and to try to control the water that is running off these socks that Mr. Verma has the photo of under item 2, where there's dewatering. That water will be run through some filters to knock out the nutrients as much as possible, the phosphorus and the nitrogen. But to your other question, which is a good question about the marine life, through the permitting process, we have to implement certain provisions for like manatee protection measures during construction. We're not, for example, we can only block half of the canal at any given time to allow marine life to move unimpeded. And there are, we'll have manatee observers to make sure that, if there's any large mammals or anything that are in the area, the work will cease. The smaller fish and other marine life would be discouraged from inhabiting that area. They're free to get out of harm's way with the noise of the dredging and all of that.
Well, getting back to what you'd be stirring up, is there any evidence of bacteria that would kill off marine life? I'm sorry, Nadia, go ahead.
Okay, so there is bacteria in the sediment. There is bacteria in the sediment inside the area as well as outside the area. I apologize that I don't know the exact impact that the bacteria would have on the wildlife. But that's something that we could research.
Okay, because that is important. I mean, you don't want to stir things up and then infuse the water with something that has been, you know, kept away from the water all these years by that sediment, sort of serving as a protective layer. And now we're stirring it up to clean it up, but at the same time, it's an unintended consequence of infusing the water with bacteria that had been kept away from. I just want to make sure that we don't find ourselves, you know, with all good intentions of trying to clean up the river bottom, and then finding, you know, that unexpected, you know, incursion of something that we didn't anticipate. All right.
Hey, I have
Anyone
a
else
question.
I'm sorry. Please, yes, Commissioner Moritas.
Raj, looking at the screen, it says in all probability, the city will be using hydraulic suction dredging using the geotubes. How much consideration have we given to the protein skimmers that were, you know, brought to our attention recently, and the technology they could use to help clean up our waterways also? Familiar with what I'm talking about?
Yeah, Commissioner Moritas, this particular slide was prepared for Tarpon River largely, but because we have the permit for George English, so we are just saying, and that's why we are saying that in all probability, city would be using. And normally, when the permitting agencies issue the permit, they issue the permit based on something that has proven to be effective in meeting the goals. My understanding of the skimmer is that this is a new technology, and it very well, based on everything that we have heard about 2-3 weeks ago, it shows the potential. But whether the DEP is going to accept that as a compensating methodology would not be known until it has demonstrated its effectiveness in doing what is supposed to be done.
So when would they have the opportunity to be considered or tested? So I know you mentioned George English and then Tarpon. I mean, is it too late for George English to be considered for that? I just think if there's a new technology out there that we should, give it some consideration, especially if we do have some concerns about, the geotubes and everything.
I think Commissioner Moritas, what issue is that my understanding is that the technology is more for the improvement of the water quality, the surface water quality. This is what is settled at the bottom. So this is something that you have to take out. It's a mixture of sand and the residue or the solids from the discharge. So they are going to be accomplishing two different things. So the water quality, the surface water quality, whatever is in suspension between the bottom and the surface is what it is supposed to. And my understanding could be wrong. And those are the types of things like what Nadia was saying about the nutrients that are already in the mixture and many of the pollutants that are also in the mixture. Those are the ones that can be addressed by the skimmer and the technology that you're talking about. This is it is settled at the bottom and it needs to be pulled out.
Yes, so I guess my only concern it would be where, dredging up, old issues, like the mayor said, and we're not quickly filtering all the water. I mean, our main objective is to have our clean waterways, in Fort Lauderdale. So, skimming and filtering and all that, and maybe it happens in conjunction. I don't know. I just like it to, make sure we're using everything for entertaining, all the technology out there we can. I guess even if something's innovative, but it does, I understand, need to be approved, I would just like to be able to give it some consideration in this process, because our goal is clean waterways.
It's very typical of all regulatory agencies. When they issue the permit, they just want to make sure that the permits that they issue, that complies with, what the standards are, and the standards they need to be proven. but we are not opposed to it. We are very open to any technology that is going to help meet the goals. And the whole purpose of this presentation and the exercise is to bring in front of you what happened, what we found out, and what are the solutions, because we do have the permit and this serves like a sort of a guidance for us that they have approved this particular methodology to remove this. And it is likely that if we are going to do the cleanup at Tarpon River, the same type of the same type of process is likely to be approved. So we are just bringing it to the attention of the commission that this is what it is, and we are looking for the guidance from the commission as to these are what we found out. These are the alternatives. This is where the things they stand, and this is how we are proceeding. And if there is anything in addition to this or it needs to change, we'll be more than happy to entertain that.
Right. So I do think it seemed like it was a worthwhile, technology. Like I said, it just seemed like it would do more than just dredge up the mud. It would actually clean the water also in the process. So just as long as you're looking at it and exploring it while you're also looking at this technology.
Yeah, Commissioner, Raj and Chris, maybe you can weigh in on this, but my understanding was that there was, there is interest of DEP in using skimmers. And again, we want to do two things at once. We want to remove the sediment from the bottom and we want to clean the water. And I think we can accomplish both. Maybe it's not immediately at the same time, but through protein skimmers and dredging, I think we can get there. So Chris, you want to give us?
Yeah, I don't know that I have a response to that, but I wanted to go back to the whole notion that, the Tarpon River wasn't really a location where we would see, underwater seagrasses or other marine life. I've not been in the river myself, but I've been next to it. And I've stood and talked to people that have lived on it for decades and decades and heard some of the most marvelous stories of flora and fauna and birds and fish and marine life. And a river that described today doesn't match any of those things. And so I do think that the river has a history of having marine life in it. And I think we do miss out on a tremendous opportunity if we don't decide that we're going to try to do something to improve that quality as well while we're already in there. And so I just wanted to push a little bit further on the concept that, well, it really doesn't have it anyway. So we really don't know that we can get anything back, because I think it did at some point. I think it was a much healthier river than it is today. So I was just wondering if our science experts could maybe comment on that.
And Raj, I had a question for you also.
Yes, sir.
Let's let them try to answer. I don't know if that's a rhetorical question, Chris, or does it have a response by?
It probably was. I just don't want to abandon the thought that we're going to, go in and vacuum out a little bit at the bottom and say, that's as good as we could do. So
I think first of all, I agree with you 100% because I feel the same way. But I think the presentation today needs to narrow its focus on trying to be able to come up with a plan and a program that the state will allow us to use the fine money towards a remediation process, and what methodologies are acceptable to them going forward that will be consistent with their expectations of how we're going to proceed in cleaning up our waterway. Raj, please correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I thought this whole presentation was about.
Yes, sir. It definitely, we just wanted to, take the commission and all our audience through the whole process, what the expectation is. And obviously the expectation of the residents is that, as the city manager said, that we want to get the river back to where it was as best as possible, which is tied to the improvement of water quality, which is tied to what the FDEP wants. So it's a combination of both the cleaning of the bottom itself, as long as we recognize that there could be some unintended consequences, that moving beyond that is what everybody is referring to in terms of trying to use various types of technology and the preventive measures that we can take such that we can improve the health of the water bodies throughout the city. And that is going to be a combination of the newer technology and making sure that many of these factors that have impacted the health is, they are tracked. And as a case in point, there is sort of sedimentation that goes in there, the pollutants that wash with the rainwater. So we try to install the baffle boxes. We try to have all these measures before the water discharges back into the canal, making sure that we plant where possible mangroves. Those are the things that help, or they have shown to help, and that's what we should be pursuing as a long-term solution to what everybody is referring to. And I think that is the intent of the FDAP's amended consent order also, that says that even if it has not caused any water quality degradation, you still need to come up with a plan that is going to improve the health of the water bodies. So I think everybody is talking the same thing. It is just that, there are different components to it.
Okay, so it's a multi-phase, multi-staged process that you're presenting tonight and this afternoon, and you're just talking about remediation right now.
Yes. Yeah.
Ultimately, we would talk about restoration. We just don't want the remediation to cause any damage to the point where restoration is not possible. That's all. And
no.
But ultimately, restoration, we want to take it from a stream of sewage to a babbling brook. We want to take it back to its more natural setting, to where wildlife and nature can return to that setting. That's all. So if you have your eye on that also, then I think we're all on the same page.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, let me just go back to the PowerPoint. If the moderator can help me go back to the last slide that I did not show in the previous presentation, I'd appreciate it. This is our stormwater project, and this is something, the River Oaks, and this is what we intended to use as one of the in-kind projects. I'm sorry that it is not very clear, but the River Oaks is going to be, right now, everything discharges into the river, and there is a lack of stormwater management system, drainage system, et cetera, et cetera. But with this improvement, their soils are going to be created. We are going to be retrofitting some catch basins. We are going to be, providing baffle boxes, pollutant control devices, and then at the site itself that is under construction is a marshland or a wetland that is being created. So all the runoff is going to be, or a substantial portion of the runoff is going to be coming into the marshland or the wetlands area. It's going to act as a filter before all the runoff, which was running into the river untreated, is now going to be treated before it goes back into the water body. These are the types of actions that help restore the health in conjunction with the newer technology that Commissioner Moritas was referring to. So it's a multi-pronged issue. It is just not one or two steps, and we have to be very open-minded in terms of what is available, what the opportunity gives us, and implement it as much as possible.
Got it.
Raj?
Yes, sir.
I have a question. Did you earlier say, and I might have misheard that, but did you say earlier that the entire 3.1 million is going to stormwater projects?
No, the 3.2 million, we have to submit projects in the amount of $3.2 million.
Right, but did you say it was going all for stormwater projects?
No, we are trying to take advantage of all our stormwater projects and making sure that we include the water quality improvement elements like the wetlands, like the swales, like the catch basins, and all these. We are going to add up everything such that it becomes $3.2 million, and then that's the plan we are going to submit to the state.
Okay, because I just wanted to make sure, like my colleagues expressed the concern about not just, taking a look at the fixed suspended solids and how we're dealing with that, but I too also am very concerned with the next step, or in conjunction with that, the actual cleaning of the water. So I just wanted to make sure that if we need to, we don't, spend all of the money on stormwater projects, and we do leave ourselves some room to maybe do some other projects as well at the same time simultaneously. That's all, because I do agree with what was said earlier about that. I was also glad to hear you mention mangroves and other things that we can do that are not difficult, that also aid the natural ecology of the waterways. So thank you.
Yeah, yes. And
Vice Mayor, let me jump in real quick, Raj, before you continue, because I think the Vice Mayor highlighted something that I want to draw the distinction on so everybody follows it. Because when we start to talk about stormwater and say, well, how does that really relate to sanitary sewer? In this particular consent order, we had to agree that a project would not be related to the sanitary sewer system and would be a project that actually enhanced the environment. And so that's why you're seeing projects like before we would have come and said, we need a bigger pipe, or we need to connect the Las Olas Isles out to the barrier island with a redundant sewer pipe. We're not coming with sewer projects on this one because sewer projects were specifically excluded to the benefit of the environment.
Oh, and I understand that, but I still want to make sure that we're not totally dismissing or not including the actual cleaning of the waterways as part of all of this as well.
Well, I think, Vice Mayor, that this project is not going to be limited to the $3.2 million expenditure. This is going to be a long-term project. We're just trying, I think Raj is just giving us a presentation so that we are being informed as to what proposal we're going to make with DEP as we move forward in trying to transfer the fine into a remediation project. And I think what this question of whether or not we should be using skimmers or other new technologies, I think that it doesn't preclude us from doing that. But right now we're just talking about a phase we have like 19 more days to get back to the state with some kind of proposal that we're hoping that they'll accept. If they accept the water remediation through the new technologies, that's great too. And it doesn't mean that it has to be used this time around, but ultimately, if it's a great resource, my God, we need to take advantage of it. But I think Raj and his staff are just here to present to us what he plans to present to DEP in compliance with the order to come up with a project that would satisfy their expectations of our city in remediating the sewage discharge.
Understood.
Mr. Mayor, just one. If I may just add that, and then Commissioner Moritas, we can ask the question. Going back to Vice Mayor's question, no, they are independent. They are not. One is not going to. The cleanup is cleanup, and this has to be done. So you are looking at your cleanup cost plus 3.2 million. Okay, so the cleanup cost, there is no, so we are going to do that regardless, but this is not only tied to matching or compensating the 3.2 for the fines, but it is also a continuation. What we have done is, rather than paying money out of general fund or anything else, we have taken certain elements of the projects that are already in works, expanding them to include or expand the water quality improvements such that we don't have to pay them $3.2 million of a different project. So this is basically a savings coming out of your existing program that also helps us to enhance the water quality. So there are both of things are going to happen independent of each other.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Raj, and that's where my point was going. When I look at this, to me, is this the 7 neighborhood project that the stormwater bond that we just issued? Is this that project basically?
Yes, yeah, okay. Absolutely right. So we are spending, so we will probably, and trying to enhance those 7 projects are also going to help you improve the water quality, because these types of elements that are essentially tied to the stormwater program, they are all intended to have that kind of improvement. So the sum total of the benefits that you are supposed to have from your stormwater program is also going to help the water quality issue in the city.
Right. So I hear you. So we have a pot of money already set aside for these projects, the stormwater. So, I mean, I would like to see the city spend additional money on, you know, our water quality. So, you know, I'm okay with, I know it's like an in-kind, I guess that's what we're trying to get to, an in-kind match to show the state what we're doing. But, you know, it's interesting that you brought up the Banana River, because my mom's lived there for numerous years and I spent a lot of time in it. And I did see the Banana River was very clean about 6 months ago. And then all of a sudden it's not clean anymore. So whatever they did isn't working now. And so I think we also need to, you know, maybe look at that as an example and say, well, what else should we be doing? That's why I think while we're doing this, we need to also try something new. I think our neighbors are begging us repeatedly to clean our waterways. I mean, whatever we can do, great with the stormwater, but if we have some other opportunities, we need to try it. And I mean, I'd be willing, you know, I'd be happy to spend more money out of the general fund to clean up our waterways and get something in there to do it. So, but thank you.
Yeah, I just want to make one point clear, and I know that you know, we have $200 million bond. This is just the start. This is just to meet the requirement of the DEP consent order. But our water quality component is not going to stop at this particular project. It will continue to expand to the other areas where possible, because we know that there are many sections in the city where there is a lot of, you know, they are unpaved areas, they don't have the swales, and those kinds of things, they all contribute. But I just also want to share this, that we are at the east end of a composite water body that is spreads throughout Broward County. We can clean our share as much as we want. But if we are not able to prevent and look comprehensively what is flowing into from the west, I'm not going to answer that question and leave the commission and the people with a thought, because they are all interconnected water bodies. You can clean your part, but what is flowing into our part, do we have any control? And are we going to get the desired result, or we are just going to be circulating the same thing?
No, I agree. So I appreciate your efforts on that. Thanks.
All right, Raj, I have some questions.
Raj, do you want to continue?
No, I'm done because I stopped. As I said, I'm not going to speculate, because you know, a whole lot of, you know, runoff that comes from the west and it's not treated. And you know, now you are going to, now you could, city could become a mixing zone. I don't know the answer.
All right, so Raj, thanks. So what we're proposing here, so one of the things we're proposing is 800 feet of lineal dredging in Tarpon River, right?
Yeah, we are proposing, Commissioner Sorensen, 400 feet is the impacted area.
Yes.
We are going to just be on the safe side, and we are recommending that we go about 200 additional feet on either side of the impacted area, so that we are not going to leave anything, because these are numbers, are calculations. So we are going to give 50% ourselves the benefit, and that's what the staff is going to recommend, that we do that. And if everything is okay, that's the application we are going to make for the permitting process.
Great, and that'd be 800 feet of what, 1 foot in depth of dredging?
Yes, approximately, yes,
okay.
Yes.
What's the estimated cost of 800 feet of 1 foot dredging?
We are expecting, the last number I had, we are expecting close to about $1.5 million for 800 feet. It is not that the dredging itself is expensive, but it is just the logistics of how it is going to be there. It is very likely it may be a lot less. And we would be exploring all those options to see. It may be a lot less. We do not know the answer yet.
Okay.
But it could be anywhere between $750,000 up to $1.5 million, depending on where we are able to store what and what type of, how fine the material is, etc. So those things would be known after the permits have been approved and what additional conditions the regulatory agencies they impose on us.
Okay, great. So 1.5 million for the dredging. Then in addition to that, we have, correct me if I'm wrong, but the clock's running for 20 days, making a proposal for how we will spend 3.2 million. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Beyond the 1.5 million.
So if I'm going to just take a rough guess, the prices we got for George English, it got increased. It jumped up to about $500,000 there, and then 1.5. So that makes it 2 plus 3.2 for the cleanup for the in-kind project. So you are looking at a total of about 5.2 million.
Right. So what are we proposing within the next 20 days? Because we've got to, for how to spend the 3.2 million, what we will spending 3.2 million on. What are we proposing?
Yes. Yeah, we are proposing, the last slide that you saw, Commissioner Sorensen, about the River Oaks neighborhood, those 2 stormwater projects, we have identified elements that are going to be improving water quality. So we have identified all that, and we would be proposing that as a part of our stormwater improvement program.
So, okay, so I mean, that's the River Oaks stormwater project that we've been working on for a while now. I mean, you're talking about using some of that money to continue work on that project that was started a while ago.
We are trying to isolate the water quality improvement elements. Like for example, let's say that you are in a neighborhood and the neighborhood does not have any drainage system. So we are going to create the swales. So the cost of installing the swale is improvement towards the water quality. But if we are resurfacing the road, that is not. So those are the types of things that we are going to isolate from our breakdown of the pay items and submit that to the DEP and say, well, these are the water quality improvement pay items or the elements or the components of the project, and then submit it to them. And it is going to be the same thing, Commissioner Sorensen, that we did with the Rio Vista. Remember that we had a flooding project and we told them that we are going to be using the exfiltration system, and they accepted that. So it's going to be something similar. So anywhere we have a stormwater project, we are going to identify all these elements, and we are also going to look at, there are some places where it is going to be swales. There are some places going to be an exfiltration system, and they are qualified water quality improvement projects, and that is the sum total is going to equal to $3.2 million.
So, okay. So, I mean, ultimately, I understand that water ultimately gets kind of moves east and so forth. But my concern is we have this huge sewage impact, and in the immediate term to kind of allocate funding for it, we're just doing that for that 800 feet of dredging. I think we've got to spend more money on the immediately impacted areas that were impacted by the sewage for waterway cleaning at that specific point, whether that's socks, whether that's protein skimmers, whatever that is. I think we've got to do more for the public to show that we're really not just removing, but cleaning the waterway at the point of impact.
Yeah, we can definitely look at that, Commissioner Sorensen, but because it is going to be a very comprehensive spread over some time, I think the starting point is going to be that we do the suction dredging and remove what has been deposited, and then continue working on improving various elements of the stormwater as and when the opportunity arises. And protein skimmer is definitely one of a good candidates that we can do that. And we can definitely explore all those options.
Yeah, so good. And I think we've got to do more. I think Mayor, and Chris, I think we've got to commit to, in the next 20 days, part of our proposal is going to be to clean the waterways at the point of impact. more
I
than
think,
just dredging.
Commissioner, I think that's part of the long-term plan. I think they.
No, I know it's part of the long-term plan. I'm talking about the next 20-day plan.
Well, they first have to they first need to dredge what they want to dredge before they can move forward with cleaning the water. Can't do one before the other, is what we're being told.
I haven't heard that. I don't think that's.
Well, Raj, you want to explain this again to us? You're proposing that in response to the Department of Environmental Protection's order that we comply with their request through a process of first cleaning the river bottom and then moving forward with restoration efforts. That's the way I understood what you were talking about this afternoon.
That is true, Mayor. And I think, I mean, we can definitely do that. You know, the only thing about the water quality at the point of discharge is that you use something like a skimmer. Yeah, definitely you can. You know, you can try that. Those are the types of things, but there is nothing in the immediate vicinity that we know of is going to, right now the focus is to try and meet the 3.2 million projects. And there is no project worth $3.2 million that we know of in the immediate vicinity of the discharge point that is going to meet that requirement. Now, should we be doing more? Absolutely, yes. But that has to be, you know, I think we need to do it on a priority basis. And again, it's a long-term, it's a long-term action. And that's all I'm going to say, that it is,
yeah.
You know, we definitely have a long-term plan.
I don't think it has to meet the totality of 3.2 million. I think there's from SOX, I mean, there's all kinds of things. It doesn't have to be at those 800 feet. I just think so much of the Tarpon River could use mitigation, waterway cleanup. So what I'm hearing you say then is the state is saying, do not do any waterway cleanup anywhere near the area, first dredge.
No, sir, I don't think so. They have left the decision to us that whatever you folks want to do, as long as it meets their standards. So
okay, but I thought the mayor just said you can't do any waterway cleanup. You have to dredge first, they're saying.
Well, I mean, you know, that is an immediate action as a result of the sewage. So you need to do that first, and then you see what impact it has before you move forward with the next stage, which is the cleanup. So you need to do the cleanup, which is at the bottom first before you move on to the next step. Otherwise, it is going to be, you know, it's going to be the cart before the horse.
So you can't have waterway cleanup away from these 800 feet? Why can't you have concurrent things going? You dredge at the 800 feet and then 1,000 feet down the river, if there's opportunity to clean up, or canals, there's opportunity to clean up the waterways there, to have these kind of functioning concurrently.
Yeah, definitely you can do that, Commissioner. But the thing is that what type of cleanup is going to be the real cleanup that is going to be acceptable to the DEP as a part of the consent order, and that is unknown.
Okay, because that's where I guess that's something I'm confused on, because I heard the DEP approved is fine with us using protein skimmers and some of these other technologies.
No, it is not, and that's where the thing was, that if the DEP approved the method, then definitely it is. It is definitely.
Okay. So the DEP does not want us protein skimming,
and those are the types, and that's why it said in the very beginning that the DEP, once they approve, because whatever methodology, let's say that they have approved the geotube system at George English, they may very well come back for Tarpon River and say this is not acceptable for whatever reason. We do not know that. Yep. So that particular aspect of the skimmer is independent, but is that going to qualify? We do not know that, because that is not an approved technology yet. Now, whoever has proposed this, if they want to use it as a demo, I think that is a fertile ground. That's a very appropriate area to see what impact it is going to have. So yeah, you can run that simultaneously if you want, but right now I think the focus is to meet the intent, and then you can, you need to do that because it's not an approved technology yet. And as best as I know, I'm not saying that I know everything.
Yeah. Okay, great. So just in summary, so I'm tracking it. It'd be what we're submitting is basically 1.5 million it'll be about 2 million, 2.2 million for dredging, George English, and Tarpon River, and then the 3.2 million focus on the stormwater plan, specifically River Oaks.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, Mayor, thank you. That
All right,
helps.
great.
Clarity.
All right, Raj, is there anything more you want to add to your presentation?
No, sir, that's all I have.
Okay,
Thank
does
you,
anyone
Raj.
else have any questions? So we have two people who signed up to speak. Okay, is Tam English on the phone? Tam, are you still with us? Do you see Tam? No. How about Kathy Diaz? Is Kathy there? Okay. Kathy, can you hear me? Can you unmute yourself? Kathy? Kathy Diaz?
Mayor, she sent me an email. She was having technical issues, so I can read her email if we can't get her.
Okay, good. She lives in Rio Vista, right?
Yep. Here's her email. She's at 1201 Ponce de Leon. She says, I tried to sign up to speak, but I wasn't successful. I've been in talks and have sent copious emails to the city to try to understand how it is that where we live along the Tarpon River, where a lot of sewage flowed down the street, inundated our land, 1201 to 1205 Ponce, and on the lowest point of Rio Vista Drive, directly in back of us a few times. I have video if you need to see it. There is no plan in the works for dredging nor cleanup. Our seawalls are black where they should be concrete color or green with algae. The sediment of the Tarpon River has been raised substantially over the 21 years that we have lived here, and we have also noticed that and those who fish on the river have told us that there's more sediment. I have been calling the city for years to complain of sewage smell where Ponce de Leon is at its lowest. In my last view of the documents planned for this commission meeting, I see no change in the cleanup plan since months ago. There are plans to fix the stormwater drain that is partially blocked from the east side of our property, thankfully, but I don't see a plan for the rest of the Tarpon River. Thank you. So I think Raj just addressed those concerns.
She'll be happy now to hear what Raj has just said. So that's great. Okay.
Yep. Let me just make sure, Mayor. Yep, that's it. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on this item? Chris, do you want to add anything more to this?
You know, at the risk of opening up a further discussion on protein skimming, I do want to just spend a couple minutes on that topic, because I know that we all, you as elected officials and me as your manager, have been approached by a group of individuals who may or may not have a very, very, very good concept that originated in Fort Lauderdale. We've seen the presentations, we've heard the discussions. When we talk about whether or not DEP has said, yes, we're in the boat for this new technology, that's not what I've ever heard specifically. I've heard, you know, the secretary has been open to it, but doesn't want to be the one that makes the decision. I've heard, you know, it sounds like a decent concept, but that'll be up to you whether or not you choose to implement it. And so that always starts with a, maybe, but not sure yet. And so I think we need to explore that topic, that concept. But what I told the group when I met with them earlier in the week, and I'm scheduled to meet again with one of their very engaged lobbyists tomorrow, is to say that concept sounds fascinating. And there might be really something to it, but I just don't know that within the next 20 days, it's perfected enough to run it up to the finish line to get the DEP to consider it as one of the things that we propose for this in-kind project. So I just want to be clear on that if we, you know, are suggesting other projects doesn't mean we're necessarily not considering that other new concept. I just don't know that the timing is going to line up to make one be a part of the other. But again, very fascinated with what they're coming up with. I think it's definitely merits and warrants being tried in Fort Lauderdale. But I just don't know that they marry themselves up on a timing perspective. And I just wanted to say that.
So we're not precluding that technology from being utilized.
Absolutely not.
It's just part of another phase, because apparently from what Raj has told us, that even if we did adopt it even if the state and the city adopted it as an acceptable technology, it wouldn't be implemented in this first phase of remediation. Is what I'm hearing. It's not something that it would be more appropriate for the second phase, which is the restoration part of it. Am I understanding that correctly?
I think that's right. And, you know, we certainly have some very talented lobbyists in the city, but I've never met a lobbyist who heard the word maybe and didn't translate that to yes. And so.
Raj, can you respond to that?
I missed a part that there was a blip. So
I said the protein skimmer technology that we've been discussing and how we're looking to see if that new technology is going to be implemented and included in our remediation. You're saying that you're not dismissing it as an appropriate technology here. What you've presented to us this afternoon was that in terms of remediation versus restoration, you're looking to use the methodologies you described this afternoon to at least get us started, and with a knowing technology that you know the DEP will accept, so that we can satisfy their expectations of us and be able to use that fine for remediation efforts, but we can still use or at least propose to the DEP to use the protein skimming technology for the continual remediation and restoration of the waterway. Is that a correct?
Yes, yes, sir. So we are going to pursue what they are going to accept, so that we can get over their requirement, meet their deadline, and then we can continue with this, because it is still experimental and we do not know the effectiveness and whether they are going to be. But we are open. You know, I think as the manager has said, that it's it is definitely a very intriguing concept, and if it works, great. And we would be happy to provide, as I said before, happy to provide a sample site for them, and that would help both the city and them. But we need to do what is going to be acceptable to DEP, and we need to continue with the programs that I had shared with you so far.
Okay.
Great. Chris and Raj.
Understand that?
Yep. Chris and Raj, as part of this, in those 800 feet, we also scrub seawalls, like some of the black and so forth that some of the seawalls experience?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
The risk of not knowing what the risk of that is, as long as the experts say that doesn't pose a risk, then sure.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
As long as the seawall does not push back, I'll be fine.
Exactly. Good.
I have seen that.
Nice. Thanks, Raj. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Mayor.
Raj, what about the algae on the seawalls? Is that okay?
Yeah, the algae on the seawalls, yeah, you can definitely clean it. Yeah, that's not an issue. And algae is something, it is very specific to any particular water body because of the conditions, because the algae bloom is also, it depends on a lot of factors, including the water depth, the fertilizer in the system, the nitrogen and phosphorus that has been said, of course, those are the critical components of fertilizer, and the sunshine and etc. But if you want to clean it, sure. Yeah, that can be cleaned.
Okay, because I do notice a lot of algae on the seawalls, especially in and around the Isles of Las Olas.
Yeah, Mr. Vice Mayor, I think we will have to, and I think to a large extent, this particular discussion about the water quality improvement does raise, as I would say, as I'm just struggling for the word, so bear with me. As difficult as it may sound, and what the residents want, I think it does raise some good points in terms of the water quality, because as I said before, that we cannot divorce ourselves from the fact that there is a lot of flow that is coming from the west side. We cannot divorce ourselves from the fact that we have got a large marine industry that also dump their sewage into the system. So it has to be a combination of policies, monitoring, practices, and cooperation from the residents. Yeah, you can do that, but if people will continue to put fertilizer because they want to have lush backyard, all that washes into the canal system, and that in turn goes into the algae bloom, depending on what the depth is. So you can clean as much as you want. To come next season, it's back to square one. So we have to look at it, it's a partnership in terms of what we want our waterways to look like, what actions the residents can take, and what we can do to monitor and making sure that it does yield the results that we want.
Raj, what is the timeline? What is the timeline you see? When are you going to begin, and when do you think this will be completed?
As soon as we have submitted our amended consent order, we will be talking to we will give go ahead to the consultants such that they can finalize their report. We submit the report back to them, and I already have the list of the water quality improvement projects tied to those 2 stormwater projects that I discussed before. We are going to submit that as a requirement or send them that we intended to do in-kind projects worth $3.2 million and provide that information to them. And that we are going to do that in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
And once we get approved, do we have to send it out for bids? Do we already know who's going to be doing the work? What's the timeline there?
I cannot give you the timeline, Mr. Mayor, today.
You cannot give us a timeline?
Yeah, I mean, especially those $3.2 million project, it is going to be a pretty, it has to be at least 2 or 3 year project. It is not going to happen in 2 or 3 months.
The dredging, I think Raj said January, Mayor.
Yeah, we're going to bid it quick and move forward, right?
Yeah. The dredging is going to move forward relatively quickly. As soon as they submit the report, the permitting is done. And
man, where'd you put the other checks that I had? You put them in the couch?
In the table.
2 more checks.
Glassman, mute yourself. Send me the checks.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Send them all. Mayor, we're going to get you in a wetsuit out there soon and dredging. It's going to be perfect. Thank you for your service.
I just think that we've let this go, for years. And, the sooner we start seeing some activity there, people in the community are tired of having gray water there in their backyard. So, all right. Thank you, Raj. I really appreciate all of your work. And yes.
I didn't get a chance to chime in.
I'm sorry. I didn't know that you wanted to.
I raised my hand on the technical parts. I guess just shouting out is better, I guess. I got some questions either for Raj or either the manager, just so I understand what we just agreed to. Now, I know we are under a consent for 20 days to propose or present our projects. So I know Commissioner Sorensen mentioned protein skimmers, as did all of you. But is that part of, since we don't know what they're going to accept, is that going to be one of the other remedies or processes we're going to submit in these 20 days?
I don't believe so, Mr.
Okay.
I think that we're not far enough along exploring the technology to know how to propose it. And I think we still very much consider it. I just don't believe it's part of this proposed project in the next 20 days.
Okay, my next step, I just want a clarification. Now, when we're talking about cleaning the algae and the dirt off of seawalls, are we talking about the seawalls we own, or are you going to come into my private backyard and clean my seawall? Because I may not want my seawall clean, or may not want anyone in my backyard or tamper, around my boat or the equipment we have. So I'm asking the question: Are we talking about our own city-owned seawalls or private seawalls?
We are, and thank you for asking that question, Commissioner McKenzie. Normally, we are supposed to the seawalls are to be maintained by the owners, unless of course it's a city seawall. And if the algae is caused because of the actions that we are responsible for, and if people want that to be cleaned, we can definitely look at that. But typically, the seawall maintenance is a part, and I'm not very privy to the the city code yet. But if the maintenance rests with the property owner. But if we have caused it, and I think if somebody wants it to be cleaned, like the area on Rio Vista, we'll be more than happy to do that.
Yeah, Rio Vista, the Tarpon pieces, George English. So I want to make sure that we don't,
Yeah, I don't know how we would use public funds to clean the wet face of a private seawall. I'd have
Yeah,
to.
but that's the reason I wanted the clarification. We
I
talked
know,
about it,
and
but I want to make sure we're
first pass. I
doing
don't
it right.
think that that's probably something that we would probably get some opposition to if we use public funds to do private seawalls, because not everybody in Fort Lauderdale has a seawall, and I can just see where that resistance would come. So we want to look into that before we made the offer to clean a seawall that we didn't own.
You can pressure clean my sidewalks when the sewers broke over here. You know, we never did pressure clean my sidewalk in front of my house. We had a big point of entry over here. So I mean, if you do the seawall, then come do my sidewalk.
Yeah, and clarifies that. Yeah, if we caused it because of the switch break, like in the Tarpon, it may probably be. And again, I'm not going to,
And I think we should.
You're right. That,
yeah, if it was caused by the sewage, we could clean it just like we've cleaned sidewalks.
Right, and that's why I asked the question, Commissioner. I just wanted to get clarity, you know, so that we don't send it out. Everyone thinks they're going to get their seawalls cleaned by us. You know?
That's my concern, is that we overcommit and under deliver.
So I wanted the clarity. That's all, gentlemen. That's it. Thank you so much, Commissioner.
Yes,
okay, great. Anything else? Okay.
No.
Do you have any other business for this afternoon?
I don't have any other business for this afternoon. No, I'll go to mute until tonight. I think Commissioner Sorensen had something.
Yes, I just had one more piece. Just I'm going back to the joint government campus. With the joint government campus, I just wanted to. So I think I had mentioned AECOM, hearing from AECOM, their presentation. So there's a couple presentations out there, right? There's AECOM. There's another one, Hayes and Sawyer, I think.
Well, those are now that we have the study from Zakovich.
Right.
You're right. The next step is to entertain proposals by those who would like to submit site plans and give us more specific details on building. We probably need to do that in a more formalized fashion. I know that AECOM has met with us and individually, and is eager to present their unsolicited proposal. And I know that there are others out there as well. Maybe, I'm not sure Alan, do you want to chime in on this?
The only unsolicited proposal I'm aware of would be the one from Unity Partners. Any other presentations, there's going to have to be a solicitation process that's put together. And I believe Broward County is going to be assisting in putting all that. So the solicitation for this design criteria package is going to have to be developed and put out before anybody can respond or provide ideas. The unsolicited proposal that was provided, that is completely separate track, and we haven't really addressed whether the UDPA is, because you can't really do them concurrently. So we can hear from them because that's a pending unsolicited proposal, but anyone else that wants to chime in is going to have to wait for the solicited proposal.
Did you hear that, Ben? Okay.
Yeah, that's all good. I just want, I want as much of this out in the public as possible, as soon as possible. Exactly. So thanks, Mayor.
Okay, very good. Any further business of the conference meeting?
Not the conference, but we need to do the CRA.
Right. So the conference meeting is now concluded. Let us now move into the CRA meeting. Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Moritas?
Here.
Vice Chair Glassman?
Here.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Here.
Commissioner Sorensen?
Here.
Chair Trentalis?
Here. Thank you so much. In an effort to encourage people to stay at home and limit public gatherings and slow the spread of the coronavirus, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis waived the state requirements for local governments to have in-person quorums for public meetings as part of Executive Order 20-69. The City of Fort Lauderdale will be hosting virtual commission meetings using audio-video conferencing software until further notice. The public will be able to listen to and view the virtual meeting at www.fortlauderdale.gov/FLTV or at www.youtube.com/City of Fort Lauderdale, as well as Comcast Channel 78 and AT&T UVerse Channel 99. to speak on an agenda item, please click on the link below. And that link is bit.ly/virtual CC meetings. So you've called the roll. A number of people have signed up to speak on different items, so we'll just begin. I'll start with M1, motion to approve minutes for October 6, 2020, Community Redevelopment Board meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
To moved and seconded, please call the roll.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Commissioner McKenzie? Oh, I guess we lost him. Oh, you're on mute. Robert, can you unmute yourself?
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Here. Yes.
Commissioner Moritas,
Yes.
Vice Chair Glassman,
Yes.
Chair Trentals.
Yes. And the motion to approve the minutes is passed. M2, motion approving a property and business improvement program incentive forgivable loan in the amount of $225,000 to the Blue Tree Cafe LLC for the Blue Tree Cafe, a multi-brand virtual kitchen, okay, and restaurant proposed at 612 Northwest 9th Avenue. We have several people who signed up to speak on this. Why don't we begin with them? I see that Christy Alvarez and Sharon Allen, both on, guess you're both connected with the Blue Tree Cafe. Is Christy on the line? Christy, are you there? Christy?
She's been recognized. She just needs to unmute.
Can you unmute yourself?
*6, maybe. *6.
*6. Christy, *6.
Mayor Sharon's been recognized too. Let's see if she has
Okay,
success.
Sharon Allen, are you there? Sharon, unmute yourself. *6.
All right, let's go to our moderator since we're having two with the same issue. Is there any other suggestion on how to? Okay, looks as though Sharon has had success.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, Sharon. Yes, we can.
Oh, great, great, great.
You have 2 minutes, please.
Okay, I'm the owner of the Blue Tree Cafe, and I am seeking this grant to provide healthy eating options for this segment of the community. There's very few vegan or healthy option restaurants in the area. In fact, it's a food desert. So I've been in business 10 years. I am a small business minority, women's owned business. I have did several contracts with the Broward County School Board, diversity, and even with the Office of Small Business and Economic Development. So I'm also certified with them. And it's just my dream to bring a different type of eating. Now, a virtual kitchen is like, it's mostly takeout and curbside and delivery. And a brand kitchen, a cloud kitchen, it holds two different types of kitchen. So I'll have a standard menu and then I have vegan options. I just feel like it's a great time to bring in a different type of eating habits for us during this particular time. And a lot of people, that's the new thing with millennials. So hopefully we can get this going.
Will this help us lose weight, Sharon? That's all I ask.
Well, I'm not going to promise that because I done seen some heavy vegans. So, but one thing is you'll feel a lot better. Believe me, you'll feel a lot better.
Okay, well, that's good. Thank you and good luck. Is Christy Alvarez available? Christy?
Could I say one more thing? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Christy is my financial advisor. So I'm going to try to get her unmuted, but she's just on the call just in case you needed her to answer some questions.
Oh, okay. All right, very good. Is Corey Ritchie there? Corey Ritchie.
Corey is there, been recognized. Either needs to unmute or *6.
Corey, press *6 to unmute yourself. When is someone going to come up with a technology that's a little bit more smooth than what we're suffering through these days?
About the time to meet virtually again. So Sharon, if you're still there, can you let us know if Corey is attached to you for questions only, or is that, just want to see how much effort we put into making sure Corey can get to the line.
No, I don't see Corey.
Okay.
I think he's behind Clarence.
Okay. All right. Very good.
I'm sorry. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Hi, Clarence.
Corey Rich is a part of staff, and he's here just to take questions.
Okay.
If
All right,
need be.
All right. Very good. Do I need to close public hearing? No. Alan? Do I need to close public hearing? No. Okay. Someone like to introduce M2?
And Mayor, I have some comments also.
Sure. Would you like to move the item?
Sure.
Do I hear a second? Someone like to second it?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Okay, let's have discussion. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it. Clarence, first of all, I just wanted to express, I've heard from the neighborhood, I believe this is in Progresso Village. No one has spoken to them. JJ Hankerson says that no one has approached him. No one has come to a neighborhood meeting. I also know that this is in District 2 and no one has approached us in District 2 to let us know what this project is about. We have not met with anybody on this project, have not heard anything about this project. But Clarence, I need you to also help me understand something. This is a tenant asking for the $225,000 for the restaurant on the property, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so how does that differ from the money that the CRA, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the CRA has given the property owner on this site, it looks like $450,000, $350 originally, then $70,000 for additional site work, and then $30,000 for streetscape. So that looks like to add up to $450,000. So how does that $450,000 to the owner differ from now the $225,000 for the tenant?
Commissioner Glassman, the difference is that the build out or the funds for the owner is going to build out the whole plaza. It's a 4A commercial plaza. The money that's going to the tenant is for the build out of the interior space. That's why we're not giving her a facade grant. She's only getting the $225,000, which will go towards the build out of the interior space. Typically, when we have these type of requests, we usually combine the two, facade and the property business improvement grant, to total about $350,000. So the $450,000 that goes to the owner is the renovation of the whole four unit plaza, and the $225,000 goes to the business owner. And what we do is we kind of negotiate with the owner a lower rent, because we're helping with the TI for the business owner. So that's how that works hand in hand.
Okay, thank you. That I understand. Mayor, I'm actually going to request a deferral on behalf of the neighborhood that has not met with anyone associated with this project. The neighborhood would like to meet with everyone associated with this project, and that could be scheduled with the Progresso Village Civic Association, and I'm just going to request that deferral.
Well, what would be the reason for the deferral? I'm just curious. This is a restaurant. I mean, would you say, would the association not want this to be
I have no idea. I always look at this as a courtesy. I mean, we just went through 5 deferrals on the last project that came to us in the CRA because the neighborhood was concerned about the ingress and the egress. So at least that neighborhood had the courtesy of meeting with everybody that was proposing a project. Now this is a neighborhood that has never seen anything about this project. So I'm looking at it as a courtesy and as what I think is the right thing to do when a neighborhood should be hearing from a project. I just think that it's a courtesy and a respect that should be afforded to every single neighborhood when a project is coming to the neighborhood.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? So there's a motion.
I concur with Commissioner Glassman, and I don't have a problem with a restaurant. I don't have a problem. I have a problem with people saying food desert because there's plenty of places to eat. It's your choice. It's your place. But what I do, what was interesting is when Vice Mayor Glassman spoke about the numbers adding up. To me, that's a lot for one owner, which I don't really oppose. I'm just curious as to how did we get to $450,000 on one building, and isn't this the same property owner of another building that got close to $1 million just right across the street? This is across the street from my district. It's 20 feet from District 3, so it's contiguous. But I like the idea of a restaurant. But what's the total amount of money this one business owner has come to us and asked for with his 1, 2, 3 buildings now? And he keeps getting
talking about the business owner. I'm sorry, Commissioner said.
Is this the same owner of the other buildings?
Yes. So the business owner and the property owner are two different entities.
No, I know that. Trust me. I'm not talking about the business owner. I'm not the restaurant. I'm talking about the property owner. Owns this building and 2 other buildings, one in which the CRA occupies 100% of the space. So my question is, how much money have we given this one property owner? I think the build out is fine for the business owner. I'm talking about the property owner and all this money that's going into his building.
So currently he's received a $748,500 grant to build out these 4 buildings or 3 buildings on the southwest corner of 9th and 6th. That is a reimbursement loan where he has to make all the improvements and then we'll reimburse him. He has not gotten the final CO on the 3rd building yet, so he hasn't gotten any funding yet. That's the one forgivable loan that we've given him. The other is for the property that we're talking about now, which is the $450,000. Initially, it's basically what I mentioned. It's $225,000 for the property business improvement program, $150,000 for the facade. We had to come back and give him an additional $70,000 because of a building department requirement, which was for drainage. Basically the same issue that Commissioner Glassman brought up about the last restaurant that we came before you with. So it's a similar situation with the drainage. So we had to give him an additional $70,000. And then there was $30,000 in streetscape improvement for a total of $450,000.
Mm-hmm. So what's the total amount this one landowner has gotten from our CRA?
Pardon me, say that again?
What's the total amount of money that this one owner has gotten from
for this site? For this site.
And not to mention, Maria Freeman had this site first. This is a site that we invested millions in to get developed, which I don't have a problem with any of the money. I just want to know how much it is. It's the same property coming back to the well, and we're upward of millions of dollars we've invested in this property. And now a new owner as recent as maybe 4 or 5 years ago that purchased this piece now where the restaurant wants to go. I don't have a problem with the restaurant, but we've given this landowner what, $1 million what now? $1 million point
1.2 almost.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And can they reach out to the HOA, Dorsey River Bend, so that it's right across the street? I'm sure they would help support the build out or the restaurant with Pam Beasley Pittman.
Okay, so you're talking Dorsey River Bend.
Yeah,
and
they should reach out to all of the homeowners in that area. It's really it's actually two, Duras on my side and Dorsey River Bend, and then you have on Vice Mayor's side. You know, just make sure that as a courtesy, like I said, because I didn't know either until I saw it on the agenda. So I love the idea. It's just that I just didn't know anything about it. I want to make sure everyone had an opportunity to give their input. But I do have an issue with this one owner who has come back to the well time and time again and got additional money because the building department said, hey, you need to do something in addition to your plans. And we did it. We all voted on it. So did I, because we want to get things done on the corridor anywhere in the CRA. So the money is what I'm questioning.
No, we do. And to use Commissioner McKenzie's words, there have been others that have come back to the well several times as well. We always seem to try and do our best to assist everyone. I don't have any issues with that on this particular site. My issues were that I just really had no idea what this was. No one came to our office. No one gave us a call.
I got it yesterday too. I got it.
And the neighborhood, no one reached out to the neighborhood. And that's just not the way we do stuff here. So it's good that everybody's on the same page and is respectful. So I appreciate, and that's why I would move to defer M2.
Second.
So there's a motion to defer. And did you say a second, Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes, second out of courtesy, yes.
Okay, so there's a motion to defer this item until when?
Let them go out and meet and come back. I'm sure.
No, we have to have a date certain.
Can you get it done by next meeting, Clarence?
Commissioner, Vice Mayor, do you have a date certain in mind?
Well, we would have to find out when from JJ when Progresso Village is next neighborhood meeting is. I would probably say the 5th is a little too early. Probably the 17th would make much more sense to me.
So defer this to November 17th meeting.
And that gives them time to go to all the neighborhoods.
Does it?
I hope.
I think so.
Well, do you know if that neighborhood association is having a meeting between now and then?
I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Progresso will be meeting. Hold on one second. Let me look at my calendar. Take me 1 second. I think Progresso and Pratima can help the applicant coordinate with them. Progresso meets on the 16th, actually.
16th of November?
Let's see. I believe it would have to be, yes, because this is already October 20th.
Okay, so they would end up meeting the day before our meeting? Okay, so the timing is okay. All right, so the 17th of November is when you want to defer this to. I want to call the roll, Jeff?
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas?
Yes.
Vice Chair Glassman?
Yes, and I would also just, again, Clarence, if you could help coordinate with Pratima and have the applicant contact us and we can put her in touch with Progresso Village, JJ Hankerson, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
And Chair Trentals?
Yes, and so the item is deferred until November 17th. M3, motion approving a funding increase from the Property and Business Investment Improvement Program forgivable loan from $100,000 to $122,500 for the Budwati Perso for the Black Star Jamaican restaurant located at 1545 Sistrunk Boulevard. Does anyone have any questions with regard to this request? Someone like to make a motion?
Where is this?
It's at, well, it's right here, 1545 Sistrunk Boulevard.
What is it called again?
Black Star.
Black Star Jamaican restaurant.
Yeah, it's right there on your agenda.
I know it's on my agenda, but again, here's another situation of, we just get this stuff, on Friday. And we really haven't had a chance to vet it, but I'll move it. But I just want further or earlier notice, I think, for us, Clarence, so that, we can let the neighbors know what we're doing. But this is my first time hearing it. Have you heard about it, Vice Mayor? It's right up the street from you. It's right between us.
No, I have not.
And I don't have a problem with it. I have a problem with how we got here.
Okay, so I'm looking at the backup. We had vetted the original request. This is just a request. So okay, so
I'll move it, but just okay. So let's do better in the future.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll take note of that in the future, Clarence. We've got to get these district commissioners and the CRA up to speed so that they see these items before they end up on the agenda. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
All right. Do I hear a second to that motion? Do I hear a second to that motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded.
Commissioner
Please
McKenzie.
call the roll.
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen.
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas.
Yes.
Vice Chair Glassman.
And right before I vote, Mayor and Chris and Clarence, what I would love to see soon as a report, I remember these projects that we approve and then nothing happens for months and months and months and months. I'm thinking of the Wings Place next to the Bank of America, there are so many of these projects that I have no idea what the status is. I have no idea where they are. Maybe a report on all of these projects that have come before us and that we've approved, exactly where they are. That would be so helpful to me, and I'm sure to my colleagues as well. Thank you. I'll vote yes.
Chair Trentals.
Yes, and the item is approved. We move on to resolutions. R1, resolution amending the Fort Lauderdale Emergency Business Investment Program for the Northwest, Progresso, Flagler Heights, and Central City areas. Clarence, you want to give us an update on these COVID business loans that we've been talking about?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. What this item does is it allows for us to make some modifications to the original program. We've been at a hard stop since we closed out. Well, we didn't close it out, but we've been at a hard stop since the last few times that we've come before you to give a report. We are now ready to go ahead and go forward. We've met with the Central City Alliance, the Central City Redevelopment Advisory Board, and we believe that we have a better way forward now. This item actually modifies the program, and the one main issue that we believe is going to allow for more participation from businesses is we're now allowing for applicants who have received funding from other agencies, whether it's federal or local, they can now get our money even though they've received PPP or other assistance. That we found to be the main issue with not getting as much participation from the businesses within the area. We've actually walked, the area and talked to businesses, and we have a better understanding for some of the issues they were having with the actual program. We've made those adjustments, and we're ready to go ahead and put it out again. The Central City, we only had one applicant to actually receive the money, but we will make that $330,000 that's still left available. If you look at the actual CAM, it goes through about 5 different areas where we've modified the program. And this has been based on talking to folks within the area. So we believe that we'll be able to get pretty much most of the money, if not all of it, into the hands of those that need it.
So all this time we've only given a loan to one business?
No, that's just in Central City.
Yeah, well, Central City. Okay.
In Northwest, in the Northwest, and you got to forgive me because I got to listen here and then talk here. In the Northwest, we've given 15 loans out for a total of $155,000, and we have $345,000 left. So that'll help us, to get that money out.
Okay. Anyone have
Mayor?
any questions? Yes.
Yeah, I do. Thank you, Mayor. Clarence, can we get a list of?
And mine, the HCD.
I'm sorry. Could we get a list of the businesses that have received the assistance?
Yes.
And how much? And I also noticed that if we do change the modifications tonight, we'll also be granting you the discretion to increase the award to $20,000 based on need, the number of applicants, and availability of funds.
Yes, that discretion is for the executive director, who's the manager.
Okay, that's the manager.
Yes.
Okay. So can you just help me understand what that process will be like in terms of whether or not people can then get that additional money, and we will be going to $20,000 versus the original $10,000? How will that be decided per application?
Well, it's going to be based on need and availability of funds. Once we put the program out again, and the request, initially we're putting it out just for $10,000. If there is a request for additional funds, once we get all of the applications and we close out the application process, we will then look at what's available and if there's enough money to be able to increase an applicant's request from the 10,000 to the 20,000. So it'll take some vetting to go through all of the applications.
Okay, great. No, I appreciate that. As long as we give everybody ample notice and it's a level playing field, and that'll be great. Thank you for that.
Okay, anyone have any other questions of Clarence or any comments regarding this matter? Would someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduce.
Please call the roll.
Mayor, there's a couple resolutions. One is for Northwest Progresso Flagler Heights and the other's for Central City. So
they're two separate items.
Time, right? Okay.
You're right. Exhibit 3 and Exhibit 4 show. So was that the Vice Mayor that introduced that?
Yes.
All right. So you're introducing the resolution regarding Central City. That's the first one. Please call the roll.
A resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the Fort Lauderdale Community Redevelopment Agency amending the Fort Lauderdale Emergency Business Investment Program for Central City Community Redevelopment Area, delegating authority to the Executive Director to take certain actions and providing for an effective date. Commissioner McKenzie?
Yeah,
Commissioner McKenzie? I don't see him on the line. Okay, keep going.
Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas?
Yes.
Vice Chair Glassman?
Yes.
Chair Trentalis?
Yes, and that resolution is approved. Would someone like to introduce the resolution regarding the Northwest Progresso CRA?
Introduced.
A resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the Fort Lauderdale Community Redevelopment Agency amending the Fort Lauderdale Emergency Business Investment Program for Northwest Progresso Flagler Heights Community Redevelopment Area, delegating authority to the Executive Director to take certain actions and providing for an effective date. Commissioner McKenzie?
I think he dropped
Not
off the
present.
call.
Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas?
Yes.
Vice Chair Glassman?
Yes.
Chair Trentalis?
Yes, and the resolution is approved. Is there any other business of the CRA? Chris, you have any additional business?
No additional business.
Meeting's adjourned. We'll see you at 6.
See you at 6.
Thank you.